Let's see here. Are we live? And we are. Okay, good. All right, let me go ahead and get this set up. So basically, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be doing basically a season predictor for the whole entire season. So let me go ahead and get this set up. There we go. And I'm trying to do where I'm going to screen share it as well. So that's what I'm setting up right now. Just getting all this set up. Said Shift S would work. Hold a second. Still getting it together. Almost like it. How do I do it? Yeah, right now I'm trying to figure out where I can share my screen. I know it's somewhere on here. Because I'm just trying to figure that out. Um, mm, Still trying to find it. Hold a second. No. Trying to figure out how to. Deny. I'm still trying to figure out how I'm going to be able to screen share. That way I can be able to show you exactly like what I'm picking, what I'm going through. So I'm trying to figure that out right now. It's my first time doing it. Um, so let's see here. Yeah. If anybody knows how to do it, like I said, you can I guess share. I'm trying to figure out right now. Let's see. Oh, hold a second. No, come on. I wish it would just literally just tell you how to do it, but it does not want to share. Um, all I'm trying to do is figure out how to do screen share. Plus sign in the sources section to add new source. Hold a second. No, where is it? I'm sorry it's taking so long. Like, I'm sorry, guys. I'm trying to figure it out. Let's see here. Okay, let's see. It's saying plus, but I don't see exactly what it's talking about. Okay, so sources, and then screen capture. And then what? Okay, so it's still not wanting to do what I want to do. Add source. All right, so it's showing this one. Let me get this set up. I think I've got it. Do NFL playoff predictor right here. I'll do it in this one instead. Hopefully, won't be any problems. Okay. And you can still see the where it says playoff predictors, right? I'm just making sure that we're able to see it. That we're all good. Yes, I'm in fact a human. Again, sorry it took so long to say this is my first time doing this type, like I said, as far as like screen sharing and making sure it's in real time while we're talking. All right, here we go. All right, so getting all this together. How I'm going to do this is I'm going to go through each team through week 10. Mainly the reason why I'm doing that is because like it kind of shows the differences of the storylines in the season, especially for after week 10. You start to see some of the playoff pushes. You start to see some of the other stuff. So I do want to hear whether it be some of your comments, like in as far as like, well, what do I think about this? What do I think about that? But first of all, like I said, I'm a Panthers fan, so I'm gonna start off with the NFC South, and I'll go in order where they have it right now. So that right now they have Saints right here, and I really don't believe that much in the Saints, but I will say this. I will say this about the Saints. They have a pretty good job of starting off season pretty good. I think that the Cardinals are a very scrappy team, but at the end of the day, I think that the Saints are going to win the first one. I think Saints are going to start off the season like hot. Like I said, not hot, but I think they're going to surprise some people because everyone thinks they're going to go they're going to be absolutely terrible. I think they're going to be competitive. I think that defense should be competitive. I just don't have that much faith in their offense. And because of that, like I said, I think they're going to lose to the 49ers. I really like this 49ers team. You'll see a little bit later. But, thought about going to this game as well, the 49ers and Saints, but unfortunately couldn't. But I think that the 49ers are going to be a really good team to overmatch the Saints team. Same thing for these next two. I think the Seahawks early on in the season, like I said, I think that there's a chance that Sam Darnold does a good transition to the Saints, good transition to the Seahawks. But initially, I'm just, like I said, I'm not as high on Seahawks as other people, but I'm definitely high on the Bills. I feel like the Bills are going to be in a really good spot um, coming into the season. I think it's going to be between them and the Ravens for that first overall seed. And like I said, I'll talk about that a little bit later throughout the season. Another team that I'm not very high on is the Giants. I just can't. I can't get behind them until I see like legitimately changing in the culture because I just don't think that they're a winning team. I haven't seen it. And do I think that bringing in Russell Wilson is going to be a big difference? I hope so. And I like their defense too, but I just can't. I can't trust the New York Giants. And I think being a home game, I think there's a chance that the Saints win this game. I know it's crazy. I know that some Giants fans think it's going to be kind of crazy. Like a lot of Giants fans are very hyped up for the season. Until something gets showed, I just can't trust them. These next two, I think, are going to be they're still a waiting game for me with it, which is the Patriots and the Bears. I think they're better than the Saints. I think they should be the Saints. I think the Patriots might have a little bit early lead going into this season, and then reality is going to kind of hit them because they have a very easy schedule to start the season. Buccaneers and Saints, like I said, I know it's a very, very tough matchup as far as it's a rivalry game. They usually play their best against them, and there's a chance that the Saints do end up winning this game. But I'm gonna go with the Bucks. Like I said, I think the Bucks are a strong team. I don't think they're gonna have that much of a fall off. I am interested to see how they're gonna do, especially early in the year with having Wirfs out. But I think that even though it's a division game, even though it's a hard fought game, I think the Buccaneers would pull it out. Rams easily winning this one. Like I said, going to LA, the Rams are going to be a very strong team as well. We're fighting for the NFC West. They're not going to be tripped up by the Saints and the Panthers. I do think the Panthers win at home. So through week 10, like I said, it is not looking good for the Saints. Saints are pretty much almost guaranteed to be a top 5 pick at this point. Depending on how the college football season goes, I would be interested to see exactly who in particular is the Saints going to be looking for. Like, are they going to be looking for potentially their new quarterback, or are they going to be potentially looking for just another game changer if, their quarterback's not they're not in position to get the quarterback? In my mind, I think there's a possibility that the Saints try to go after Garrett Nussmeier. Obviously, it's a little bit of a conflict of interest with the offensive coordinator being his dad. But that would be interesting. That would definitely be an interesting story throughout the NFL season. Is if Garrett Nussmeier continues to be as good as he has been, are the Saints going to be eyeing Nussmeier with their offensive coordinator being his dad? I don't know. Now for my Panthers. Now, I'm a Carolina Panthers fan. I'm hopeful for the season, but I also want to be realistic for the season. So I think coming in is Panthers versus Jaguars. I really do want to stream this game, and unfortunately, it looks like I'm not going to be able to. But I do think that the Panthers actually do win Week 1. It's been a long time since we have. Technically, the last time we went 1-0 in the preseason opener, or preseason, the season opener was when we went 3-0, and then we absolutely just were horrid the rest of that season. That was the 2021 season. We went 3-0, and then we got absolutely smacked the rest of the season. But I think that the Panthers against the Jaguars is going to be a very, very hard fought team. I think it's going to be a hard fought battle. But at the end of the day, I think they're going to pull through. I'm interested to see how Travis Hunter does. I think they announced it that he's a starting wide receiver and then a backup cornerback, which I think is fine. Like I said, he's going to be able to play on both sides. I just don't want them to overwork him. I mentioned before in the Saints video, like I said, I think that the Cardinals are going to be a very scrappy team. I think they're going to have a great start to the season after that embarrassment in Week 1. Week 1 is always weird, especially in NFL, and you just saw it now, saw it with the college football season. Week 1 is crazy. I think the Cardinals are going to beat us. I know that technically over the years, the Panthers have pretty much had the Cardinals number, especially Kyler Murray. But I think that the Cardinals, being at home, it's going to be difficult for the Panthers, who are still trying to go in transition. I think that the Cardinals are going to win. Now, like I said, divisional game. You got the Falcons coming to the Carolina Panthers. I think it's a division matchup. I think that the Falcons actually steal this one. I think the Falcons are going to be a very, very competitive team. I think that the NFC South in general is going to be it's gonna come to week 18. I'm gonna be a little preface on this. I think that all three of the teams competing for the NFC South are gonna struggle early. I think it's still gonna look like one of the worst divisions in football. It's just how it is, unfortunately, and I think we're gonna struggle at the gate. So speaking on that, losing to the Falcons, I think we're losing at the Patriots. Like I said, I like the Patriots team. I think the moves they made on defense, like I said, they really strengthened themselves on defense. And like I said, this is still early in the season. I think our defense is still going to try to get stuff together, and it's going to make it a little bit easier on Drake May. And I think the Patriots are going to win. Now, talk about the Patriots. Talk about the moves they made and how I like them. I just like the Giants have no faith in the Dolphins. I have no faith whatsoever. I think that the Dolphins are going to be bad this year, and you'll see in a little bit what the reason why I think so. And I like I said, it's not going to be stupid hot like it is all the way down in Miami as a home game. The Panthers have lost 3 straight by this point. We're hoping to get a win, and I think we're going to be able to kind of keep that heat off of Dave Canales and Bryce Young of this is another terrible year. So 2-3. But unfortunately, even with Micah Parsons being traded, I think that the Cowboys still win. I think the Cowboys still win. I think they're a much more talented team than we are. Unfortunately, I am excited to see how our offensive line goes against their defensive line. Now you don't have Micah Parsons, so I think that this could be a back and forth kind of game. But at the end of the day, I'm still going to take the Cowboys, unfortunately, to beat the Carolina Panthers, and we're slipping a little bit into that, dreaded territory of oh no, this season can get really, really bad. But then we have the Jets. Jets going to be a scrappy team, but they're not going to beat us. I would be very shocked if the Jets had a lot of early wins. And you'll see, I think the Jets have potential of being the same exact way that you had with the Lions when they were really in their infancy under Brad Holmes and under under Dan Campbell. Like I said, I think they're a really scrappy team. They're going to be trying to be in every single game. But I think they're going to have one game, and I'll talk about it in a little bit. They're going to have one game where they absolutely will have a playoff team miss the playoffs because they lose to them. And obviously, like I said, Bills and Green Bay Packers, there's no shot for us. I hate that we have no shot, but I think there's no shot for us. So at the 10 week mark, we're 4-6. So it's not terrible, but it's not looking too hot, like I said. And we're 1-1 in division, so we still have everything in front of us as far as the division goes. The Falcons, like I said, I think they're going to have a little bit of a rough start too. But the Falcons are a little bit different. I think that they're going to get the Week 1 win. I think the Falcons coming into the season, obviously, they let the division go right through their hands. They basically had it, and then they went on that midseason skid where they kept on losing with Kirk Cousins being hurt. Try to salvage the season at the very end, and unfortunately couldn't win the division. I think it's going to fuel them in the Week 1 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think they're going to be able to beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, especially at home in front of the home crowd. Now, J.J. McCarthy versus Michael Penix. I'm gonna go with the Vikings here. I really like the Vikings defense. I think it being a home game, I think that's going to be very, very intriguing to see how Michael Penix does against this. Against the defense is going to that's going to be able to get after him, especially with McGarry, who's been hurt. He's been silent for the rest of the season, or I think it's either for the rest of the season or for a very long time. I am interested to see exactly how long he's going to be out and how it's going to affect that offensive line. And the way that that Vikings defense gets after the quarterback, I think there's going to be a chance that it's going to be a little bit ugly game for Michael Penix Jr. Like I said, week 3 they are going to beat them. Going to week 4, like I said, I am not going to pick against the Commanders. I think that the Commanders, even though they are going to the Falcons, I think that they have a really good team. I'm expecting them to still make the playoffs. Like it's a little bit teaser, so I think they're still going to make the playoffs. But I think it's going to be a hard-fought battle at the very end for them to be able to make it. Like I said, I just believe in the Bills. I don't think there's a chance the Bills lose to the Falcons. Even though it's a Monday night game, I think the Bills are gonna beat the Falcons. And then going into week 7, like I said, you're going against the 49ers. I really like this 49ers team too. It's a home game too. So not only do you have the Falcons just going against the Bills, it's gonna be a very physical team, and then you go to the 49ers, and that's gonna stink for the Falcons. And like I said, this string of losses, 3 straight losses, even with kind of in with a bye, you're in a little bit of a tough spot. The same exact thing that I had with the Panthers. You get to go against the Miami Dolphins. You're backed up in a corner. I think you get a win here. I think you get a win here. It's a home game against Miami, who, like I said, I just don't believe that much in Miami. I really don't. And I think that, you end that losing skid, you go into week 9, week 10, and you're hoping that you can get on the right track. However, you go into the Patriots. Patriots, I think, just are going to be better on defense. Same exact thing. I don't think they have the pass rush that obviously I talk about the Vikings, but I think that their defense is going to lock down Drake London, and I think it's going to have to be a Bijan kind of game, and hopefully he can be able to carry that team. But I just feel like the Patriots are going to be able to get after. They're going to be able to stop Drake London. They're going to force basically Michael Penix to kind of take the easy passes, and I just don't believe that the Falcons are going to win that game, especially in Foxborough. Then you go to Germany, and I am absolutely not taking the Colts. I don't believe in the Colts at all. It's going to be really bad for the Colts. I really hate to say it, but it's going to be really bad for the Colts. So Falcons going into Week 10, you're at 4-5. Like I said, I think that's a reasonable thought. Is okay, well, we're almost 500. We're 2-0 in the division. Like I said, the Falcons, are looking pretty right now in the division. You have a win versus the Buccaneers and also the Panthers. So you're fine. You're fine where you are right now. You're everything's still in front of you, and now we have the Buccaneers. Well, there we go. Now the Buccaneers. Like I said, you're losing to the Falcons, unfortunately, at the very beginning. But Monday night game against the Texans. Like I said, I think that week 1 game, that week 1 loss to the Falcons is going to wake up the Buccaneers. I do think that's going to be an interesting matchup with your tackles versus the Texans' edge, because the fact that you're not going to have Tristan Wirfs for the first 4 weeks. I think that's what it was. But he's going to miss some time, so it's going to be a little bit difficult. But I think the Buccaneers are an opportunistic team. I think they're an opportunistic team. They're going to be fighting their way to make sure that they're able to make the playoffs once again, hoping that they can win the division. And so I have them beating the Texans. Like I said, I think they're going to beat some pretty good teams. They're a really good team. I think they're just going to falter a little bit because there's just some teams that are basically designed to try to beat the Buccaneers. Buccaneers have won the division for the last 4 years. Every single team in the NFC South is trying to beat the Bucs. And same thing I said before, I think that the Jets are going to be kind of bad in the beginning of the season, especially as Aaron Glenn trying to change that culture. But I think a little bit later on is when you start seeing some of that fight start to come back. Eagles are a juggernaut. I think it's gonna be I think it's gonna be a fun game, especially like, since it gets these two teams. It usually is. I think that the Buccaneers hold strong. They're very much in the game. I think the Eagles just too much talent to be able to pull away. And then going from after this physical, very very physical game, going all the way to Seattle, I think that's too much. I unfortunately think the Seahawks are going to beat the Buccaneers. And I think it just comes down to the fact of after this very, very physical game early on in the season, you have to go all the way from Tampa all the way to Seattle. I think it's a tough matchup for you to do. And I think Seattle gets the win. Now, going into week 6, I've already said before how much I really, really like the 49ers. But after this 2-game skid, I think the Buccaneers are going to buck up, and I think they're actually going to beat the 49ers. They're going to be one of the few teams I think beats the 49ers. Because if you look at the 49ers, if you look at the 49ers schedule, it is an absolute cakewalk. But I do think the 49ers are going to lose to the Buccaneers. I think the Buccaneers, like I said, are a strong team, and they're going to defeat some playoffs teams. But I don't think they're going to beat the Lions. Like I said, Monday night game, I really like the Lions. I know they lost their coordinators, but at the same time, I just really, really believe in the Lions, and I think that they're going to have an amazing season this year. Same as the thing I've said before, the Patriots. I think the Patriots have an easy schedule, just like the 49ers, and they're going to be pushing for the playoffs. After a bye, you're hoping that the Buccaneers can be able to win this game, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think the Patriots are going to absolutely sweep the NFC South. So where does that leave you? Well, Buccaneers, you're 4-5, same exact record as the Falcons. However, you're 1-1 with one of those losses being with that loss being against the Falcons. So right now at the 10-minute mark, I have the Falcons going to be leading the division. I would trade a loss in all for a win in Tampa, just because we have plenty of reasons to lose in Week 1. Also, a primetime win would be cool. True. Like I said, I think ultimately it's going to come down to the fact that all of these teams, like I said, all the NFC South teams are probably going to be bad at the beginning of the year. I think that you're going to be motivated, like the Falcons are going to be motivated. And that's the main reason I'm going with y'all against the Buccaneers. But I mean, as you can see, I mean, like literally, it's 4-5, 4-5, 4-6, and they're all like so you're all within striking distance. I think that's the most important part. You're all within striking distance of the NFC South, except for really the lowly Saints, who are already 0-2 and 2-8. Like I said, I think the Saints, I don't know if they're going to be as bad as everyone's saying there is, but I think they're going to beat some teams, might ruin their draft position. And I think it's going to be a long year for Kellen Moore. So, like I said, I already talked about the NFC South. So, next one I'm going to be talking about is going to be the NFC West. Now, NFC West, I'm going to go in order of where it has me right now. So let's go with Seahawks right now. So Seahawks are already 2-0 against the NFC South. Like I said, the NFC West goes against the NFC South this year. I really think that they're going to start off the season relatively pretty bad. Like I said, you have an early game against the 49ers, so I think the 49ers are going to be a good team. They basically rebuilt their defensive line. I think that I really like their rookies, and I really think the fact that they were able to trade for Bryce Huff helps out a little bit. And I like Nick Bosa as always. Like I said, I think Nick Bosa is going to have a really good year, especially with the offense for the 49ers. I think also improving as well. Getting back healthy is going to actually allow him to get into much more pass rush situations instead of just trying to defend the run. Because a lot of times the 49ers were behind the 8-ball. Now, you got Seattle versus the Steelers at Pittsburgh. I really like Pittsburgh. I think, okay, when I say I really like Pittsburgh, I think Pittsburgh is going to be a interesting team this year. I think that they're going to be, one of those teams that, okay, well, you have a old slash new secondary with you have a lot of moving pieces. I think Joey Porter Jr. going to his third year. You got the fact that Darius Slay was still good, though he had some times where his age was kind of showing. You get in Jalen Ramsey, who they're still good. Are they like as at the peak? Absolutely not. But I think they're still good. So I like that defense backfield. I still like your offensive line as far as them coming along. They're a very young offensive line, so if they made the strides this summer, I think watch out. Aaron Rodgers, yes, he hasn't been as good as he has been, but the fact that it's so early in the season, I think people are kind of sleeping on the Steelers a little bit. And ultimately, I still think they're going to. So I'll show in a little bit. I still think they're going to go. They're not going to be below 500. So our talk about them beating the Saints. Then we go to Week 4, and you got the Cardinals, the Thursday night game, huge game. I think the Cardinals get the early lead. I think the Cardinals are going to be a very terrifying team at the very beginning of the year, and I'll talk about it a little bit later on. Like I said, they're a scrappy team. This has got to be the year where Kyler puts it all together. That's the main thing that we're looking for is can Kyler finally put it all together? So they get the win against the Buccaneers, and then you got to go to Jacksonville. I think Jacksonville is an interesting team. I think they're going to beat teams they probably shouldn't. And this is one of those teams. I think Jacksonville beats the Seahawks. I think the Seahawks are better, but I could see in Liam Cohen's first year just some games where okay, you can kind of get behind him and be like, you know what? That's perfectly fine. We're the team's growing. You're just hoping that you see a little bit more life out of Trevor Lawrence, especially after you paid the big bucks. So you're hoping and you're praying that things go right. Now, going into Week 7, like I said, you're going against the Texans on Monday Night Football. I just like the Texans a little bit more. I really do. And like I said, it's looking pretty bad for the Seahawks right now. Like I said, you're 2-5. You're going into the bye week. You're like, crap. Okay, this is not good. This is not looking good. We're kind of free falling here. Maybe Sam Darnold isn't playing as well as you're hoping for. You got rid of Geno Smith. I think a lot of people are there are some people who are kind of downplaying exactly what Geno did for y'all last year with as terrible offensive line as you had. Obviously, I think the offensive line improves, but I really think that Sam Darnold is an improvement over Geno Smith? I can't say that I am. I can't say that I do because I've seen Sam Darnold, and you're hoping that he can continue on his path of being good, like he was for the Vikings. But the Vikings had a stacked roster. The Vikings had a stacked offense, and I just don't think that that it's going to translate to the Seattle Seahawks, and that's the reason why I think the Washington Commanders are going to beat them. I really do. I think the Commanders are a hungry team. Obviously they made it all the way to the NFC Championship game. They have high aspirations. Are they going to hit them? I don't think they are. But I think that their offense is going to be pretty good, especially with the fact that the improved offensive line play. I think Jane Dale's going to his second year. I'm very concerned about the defense, but I think that the offense will be too much for the Seattle Seahawks, who I think could still have a good defense. But there have been plenty of times where defense is good, but the offense is just kind of making the team way worse than it actually is. Now we're going to go into Week 10. I said Cardinals already won before, but they're not going to be swept. No, I think the Seattle Seahawks are actually going to be able to split the series against the Cardinals, get a win, break this losing streak, this 3 straight losing streak, and beat the Cardinals for a conference win. Like I said, 3-6 at the 10-week mark is looking pretty bad. And there are going to be some Seattle Seahawks that might be calling for McDonald's head, even though I think he's going to make it to his third year. But there's been a lot of people who are very, very frustrated. They thought this was going to be a better year than what we thought. You're 1-2 in the division. It is just not looking good for the Seattle Seahawks. I've been talking a lot about the Cardinals, so I'm gonna wait a little bit for them. I want to talk more about the LA Rams. Let me see if there's any more comments. No, okay. So I'm gonna go more about the LA Rams. The Rams are a fascinating team to me because not only do I love their defense, but I also hate it. I love their defensive line. I love their linebackers, even though, honestly, they should probably pay more attention to linebackers. I still like the linebackers that they have. But I do not, I repeat, I do not like their secondary. I like their safeties, but their cornerbacks, I can't get behind it. I really do think that there's a chance that the Rams could be a really good team, a really good defense, but their downfall this season is going to be one of two things. It's going to be cornerback play and quarterback play. I think Matthew Stafford still, hold on a second. I had a sneeze there. I think, ooh, sorry about that. I think that Matthew Stafford is still at the top of his game. However, that back is kind of concerning to me. And the fact that they haven't been really out in the open about what exactly is going on is very concerning to the point where I'm like, I want to trust that things are going to go well, but I also at the same exact time want to make good predictions. So let's just say that Matthew Stafford's back situation it does well in at the very beginning of the season. So let's just say that he does well. There's no back problems, no really issues. He's fine. Okay, that's fine. Then I think they have a chance to win against the Houston Texans. So I think it's going to be a very dangerous team. I think that the Texans, I don't think they're going to have the sophomore slump that obviously has C.J. Stroud, but I think that early on in the season, I think that they're going to have some struggles, especially with having a new offense, new offensive coordinator. So there's going to be some kind of stuff. There's going to be some kind of problems there, but I think they're still going to be a good team. So but I think early on they're going to drop some games they probably shouldn't. And then you got the Titans. The Titans, they're coming off a ride against the Broncos. That's so hard. That's so hard for them. I think the Rams are going to come into the Nissan Stadium and also going to get another win against Cam Ward. I think Cam Ward's a good quarterback. I talked about this in the draft. I think that he was the only quarterback that I actually was going to hitch my wagon to, but yeah, you know what, he might be fine. He might be 17, 18 ranked quarterback, which is not bad. Like I said, but he's he's going to be fine. Then you go to week 3, and this is a very big matchup. Obviously, it's the rematch of the divisional round. You're having, going back to Philly. You're hoping you get some revenge. I don't think it's happening. I think Philly's going to win this one in the home. Like I said, Philly is really, really talented. I think their wide receiver core going against that cornerback room is going to expose it a little bit. And you're going to have some problems. You're going to start to have some questions for this Rams team. I've already mentioned before, I don't trust the Colts. I really don't. I don't trust the Colts at all. I think that it's going to be ugly. I think that it's going to be people are going to lose their jobs. Let's put that mildly. They're going to lose their jobs. Now, going into week 5, we got a Thursday night game. And obviously, like I said, we're looking at, okay, well, we won the first 2 games. We lost against the Eagles. We beat the Colts. Let's see if we can kind of keep on the streak of being a little more of a contender. And I think that a home game, LA is going to beat the 49ers. Like I said, I think the 49ers and LA Rams are going to be battle testing for this NFC West. However, it is a Thursday night game. You get a little bit more time to yourself to kind of prepare for the Ravens. I just really like the Ravens. I really do, and I think a home game for the Ravens. I think it's going to be pretty hard for me to pick against them, especially against the Rams. I think that they're a really good team. They're going to be a juggernaut this year. And I already mentioned before, I think that it's going to be the Rams versus the Bills for the top rated seed. And then we go to London for week 7. And week 7, like I said, I don't really trust the Jaguars. And this is technically their second home in London. I don't trust them. I'm going to go Rams. I think the Rams beat the Jaguars in London, and they have a bye week to kind of recruit. You had 2 really tough losses, like I said, but they're against 2 contenders. And I think at the end of the day, you're fine. Okay, what? Yeah, we lost, unfortunately, to those 2 teams, but we're still sitting high. We're still doing good. And then week 10 happens. And I think that the 49ers get their get back. The 49ers, I think it's going to be a hard-fought game in week 5 in that Thursday night game. They're going to be mad they lost. Then they're going to be coming home, and I think they're going to be able to beat the Rams. I don't think they're going to be able to sweep them. So, like I said 6-3. That's great. That's great if you're the Rams. 6-3. Yeah, that 1-1 division. Like you have you're splitting with the 49ers, but you still got that one win, so I think you're fine. But this is what's concerning: that 1-3 versus winning teams. Now, obviously, like I said, I haven't really gone all the way through and shown like who's a winning team or not. But like I said, that's a little bit concerning that you still are, doing that against good teams. Let me do the 49ers. The 49ers, like I said, I think are going to be really good, but I do think they're going to struggle. It's going to be a little bit hard. They start the season with 2 straight home away games. I have them winning both those away games, but I do have them losing their first home game. I think they're going to be 2-0. They're going to be kind of thinking a little bit high themselves, and then come the Cardinals, who I think is going to be really really good this year. Going to be really scrappy, and they're going to cause a little bit of chaos. And I think they're going to beat the 49ers, and a lot of people are going to be like, oh, okay, let's look at this Cardinals team. Like, yeah, they lost, their week 1 against the Saints, but they beat the Panthers, and now they just beat the 49ers. Going to week 4, like I said, I've already mentioned how I think that they're a really good team, and I'm not going to have them lose to the Jaguars. I just don't think that's going to happen. So, I've already mentioned before that they're going to lose to the Rams on Thursday night. I have them losing to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but I have them winning against the Falcons. And then comes DeMeco Ryans, his little revenge game. You're hoping that DeMeco, by the home crowd behind him, is going to be able to beat the 49ers. And unfortunately for the 49ers, I think that's going to happen. I think that DeMeco gets his revenge. Like I said, I think the Texans are a very good team at home, especially going against that offensive line that's a little bit suspect, especially if maybe a Trent Williams gets hurt. Who knows? I think that the Texans are going to be a really good defense, going to test this offense. I think it's going to be a very defensive game this game. And then, like I said, I don't trust at all the Giants. So I think the 49ers are going to win that game. So, 49ers are 6-4, 2-2 in division. Once again, and like I said, this will kind of show up a little bit differently as the season goes. But right now, like I said, I have 6-4, have 6-3. But now we have the Cardinals, and the Cardinals, like I said, I think they're a very, very scrappy team. Now, let me preface this before I go into how I think their season is going to go. I don't think it's going to be like, was it 4 seasons ago where they went like undefeated and then they lost to the Green Bay Packers and they completely fell apart. I don't think it's going to be going like that. But in my mind with the Cardinals, I think that they're going to go on a little bit of a run. I think a lot of people are going to get very, very excited about them. But let me show you who they're actually playing. Yes, they lost to the Cardinals. Well, yes, they lost to the Saints. Beat the Panthers. Hey, look at there. They beat the 49ers. And I'm not very high on the Seahawks. I have them beating the Titans, the Colts, a surprise game against the Packers. And I think that's I think that's the one that a lot of people will be like, oh, they're going to their bye week. They're like really hyped. Like I said, it happens every single time for the Cardinals. I think that, unfortunately, I don't know. It's not a Cliff Kingsbury thing. I just think that it might be a Kyler thing. And it sucks because I want Kyler to be good, but I just can't trust him. I think they're going to have a great start to the season. But as you see, as you can see, they're going to drop off. And in Week 9, coming off a bye, I think they're going to lose. Yes, Dallas did lose Micah Parsons. Yes, Dallas is not going to be as good as I was hoping that they would be going into the season. However, it's a home game, Monday Night Football, and I really think that Kyler Murray is going to lose in AT&T Stadium. And like I said, I had the Cardinals losing to the Seahawks in Week 10. So they are also 6-3 with 2-1 in the division. So right now they are in the lead. However, it is a very tight race right now, and it is looking like the Seahawks are being left behind. That's what I'm talking about right now. I think the Seahawks are going to be a little bit left behind. They're going to be seen as like they're just scrapping and clawing, just trying to make a playoff game. I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be good for this Seahawks team. Moving on, let's go to the NFC North. So let's actually look at the Vikings. Like, so the Vikings are a fascinating team to me, mainly because of the fact that you have the Vikings who are with a new quarterback, who have still a problem with their cornerbacks, but they're very blitz heavy defense. I think some of the additions that they made, especially on the interior, is fascinating to watch. A lot of veteran presence now. So how exactly is this going to work out for the Vikings? Well, in JJ McCarthy's first game, he has to go against the Bears. So you have Caleb Williams versus JJ McCarthy, Week 1, Monday Night Football. I'm going to go with the Bears on this one. It's a home game. I think the Bears defense is going to be pretty good this year. I'm excited to see who is really going to pop off on this defense, because I think the Bears have a good defense. I think that you're hoping that with the new defense coordinator, the new defensive mind, that's going to continue to be good. I think it's going to be that way. I think the Bears are going to get after the Vikings, especially JJ McCarthy, make some pretty bad decisions, and then they're going to get the Week 1 win. Now, like I said, I think JJ McCarthy is going to beat Michael Penix, and then you're going to Week 3. So Week 3 against the Bengals, like I said, you're hoping like, okay, well, we're 1-1. Hopefully, we can kind of keep this train going, and I think they do. I think they get the home win. I think Vikings get the home win against the Bengals. It's going to be a back and forth kind of game. The Bengals have just a really good offense, and it's going to keep them in the games. I mean, like it's going to be bad on defense, but I think it's going to be really good on offense. It's going to keep them most games. And the Vikings, like I said, they start 2-1. Now you got the Ireland game. You got Aaron Rodgers versus the Vikings. I'm gonna go with the Vikings. Like I said, I really like this team. I think that they're going to be on a little bit of a winning streak. I think it's going to especially continue against the Browns. Like I said, I do not believe the Browns at all. And now they're in UK, so they went from Ireland to the UK. So now they kind of have some time in Europe, and now they're going to have a little bit of a bye week as well. So not only they go on a little bit of vacation, they get 2 wins. They're 4-1, and they get coming out of their bye. However, you're coming out of your bye, and you're going against the Eagles. I'm going for the Eagles. I think the Eagles are too good. I think a lot of that travel is going to kind of drain some of your players. You're going to be very, very hyped coming into this game because, like I said, you're 4-1. The Eagles are going to be good too, and unfortunately, you're going to fall flat on your face. And then right after you have to go up against the Eagles, like legit, right after you go up against the Eagles, then you got to go against the Chargers on Thursday Night Football, and that's going to really suck. However, I think that JJ McCarthy is able to beat his former head coach. I think the Vikings, like I said, it's a very interesting defense with Brian Flores going against Justin Herbert. I think it's going to be a fun matchup. I'm going to be really excited to watch this game. I think the Vikings are going to be the Chargers. Who the Chargers I feel really, really good about. I think they're going to be a really good team. Going to Week 9, you've got to go against the basically your rival, and who's going to be challenging you for potentially making it to the playoffs, and that's going to be the Lions. And like I said, I just really love the Lions. I really do. I think that they're going to be it's going to be an interesting year for the Lions, mainly because obviously they lost both their coordinators. I feel much more confident about their defense than I do about their offense, just because you're getting Hutchinson back. I feel more about the more. I feel a little bit more better. Goodness gracious, I feel a little bit better about the continuity with the defense than I do with their offense. And then Week 10, you got Harbaugh going up against the Vikings at home. Brian Flores has had Lamar Jackson's number, and I'm gonna take. Oh no, sorry. I'm gonna take the Vikings. I think the Vikings beat the Ravens. Going to be a little of a stunner, and you're looking at the Vikings right now, and you're like, okay, 6-3. and their losses, like early season loss, and then you got the Lions and the Eagles. They're still within this. Yes, division does not look good right now. It's 0-2, so that's a little bit scary. But this looks like a really good team. Looks like a promising team, and you're hopeful that they're able to kind of pull it together. Okay, so now let's move on to the Bears. I'm going to talk about the Bears. All right, so with the Bears, like I said, I think they're going to be a they're going to be a scrappy team, but at the same time, like this is still a first-year head coach, so you have to kind of temper some expectations. You got to be like, okay, well, you know what? If we win some, we win some. We lose some, we lose some. And I think they're going to lose. Like I said, the Lions early on in the season. Lions are a much better team, and at the same time, the Lions are um, way more experienced in these kind of situations. The Bears have just not been good for quite some time. The Lions have kind of become the big brother now. You're gonna be chasing them. Now you got to go against the Cowboys, and let me see here. Hold a second. Yeah, that's right. So I have the Cowboys losing to the Bears. Like I said, home game for the Bears. Obviously, not having Micah Parsons also going to be a huge factor now. And then, like I said, the Bears are going to be okay. Well, we're 2-1. We're looking pretty good. We're looking pretty good. Now we go against the Raiders, and then I have them lose to the Raiders. I think that the Raiders are going to be a scrappy team. I really do. I think the Raiders are a scrappy team. With Geno there, with Ashton Jeanty there, on offense, they've improved the two disaster classes they had last year, and now you're going to bye. You're 2-2. You still have everything in front of you, but then you go on to Monday Night Football, and now it starts creeping in again. Okay, now we're back at Washington, where the season fell apart last year. Can we get a win? I don't think it's going to happen. I think Monday Night Football, I think Jayden Daniels gets the better of Caleb Williams once again. And unfortunately for the Bears, they're going to be like, crap, we just missed out on a perfect opportunity to win against a potential playoff team that could, like I said, I think this game right here, this Week 6 game, is going to determine who makes the playoffs. NFC is going to be a very, very tight race. And this game right here, whoever wins this game is going to determine who makes the playoffs. That you can mark my words right there. I think that's a pretty fair assessment. Seventh, like I said, I think they're going to beat the Saints. It's pretty easy. Week 8, like I said, this is the Ravens. The Ravens at home. I'm going to have the Ravens. I think it's going to be too much, unfortunately, for Caleb Williams. And then you got the Bengals in Week 9. Like I said, the Bengals in Week 9, you're like, okay, well, it's a home game for the Bengals. We're hoping that our defense can kind of keep us in the game. I think it is. I think the defense is going to keep them in the game. And I think that the Bears can come out of this with a win. I think the Bears can come out of this with a win. We're like, okay, well, we lost to two, former playoff teams. We need to kind of get our mojo back. We beat the Bengals, who I think are going to be an interesting team to say the least. And then we beat the Giants. So going out of Week 10, we have 2 straight wins. We're 5-4. We have everything still in front of us. We're still behind the Vikings, but we're still in this. We're still in this. And then let's go with the Packers. The Packers are an interesting team. And the Packers, I am very frustrated a little bit because of the Micah Parsons trade, because it kind of screwed things over with my video making of the NFL offseason, because it kind of ruined the 4 episodes that I did make. But I won't hold that against them. Like I said, I think the Packers are going to be a really good team. And I think they're actually going to be really good to start off the year. I mean, I know that Micah Parsons has his back concerns and whatnot, but the Packers are still a good team regardless. So I do think they open the season with a win against the Lions. Very huge win to get, the first step and to try to win this division. Thursday night game against the Washington Commanders. I think they win. Like I said, I think it's going to be a winning streak for the Green Bay Packers to begin the season. So I have them beating the Browns and obviously getting their revenge against the Cowboys. I think Mike Parsons has a pretty good game, especially if he's healthy by this point, because I think, obviously they're going to shoot him up with some stuff to make sure he can play in Week 1. Um, week 2, I'm not for sure, especially with just such a short week. But the Browns, is the Browns, and then he is going to play in this game. I feel very confident he's going to be playing in AT&T Stadium. So you got 4-0 going to a bye. Things are looking pretty good. But oftentimes when things look pretty good, what does that mean? You're going to fall straight on your face. So Bengals come in to Green Bay, get the win. I'm going to show a little bit of the Bengals, especially I don't think the Bengals are going to start off the season pretty hot. But this is going to be where okay, this is the same as Bengals. The Bengals who just know they find ways to win games, especially when their back is turned. Because like I said, I just think the Bengals are going to start off so bad they're not going to make the playoffs. Going to week 8, you got the Steelers versus the Green Bay Packers. A very, very pivotal game, especially because it is going to be against Aaron Rodgers. I don't think Aaron Rodgers gets his revenge. I think Green Bay is going to come into Pittsburgh. They're going to beat Pittsburgh, especially because you don't want to make this a three-game skid. So they beat the Packers. They beat the Panthers, and then in Week 10, they're going up against they're going up against the Eagles on Monday Night Football. I just think the Eagles are going to win this one. Like I said, I think the Eagles are a juggernaut. They're going to beat some playoff teams as well. But Packers, you're 6-3, and you're 1-0 in the division. So right now things are looking pretty good for you. But how good, especially, are the Lions going to be? Obviously, like I said before, the Lions are going to be, a scrappy team. I really like them. However, I will say this about the Lions. I think they're going to be a little bit wishy-washy in the very beginning of the season. Week 3, you're going against the Ravens. I'm picking the Ravens. Now, I am picking you against the Browns, but that's just because it's the Browns. But then you go to the Bengals. Like I said, you go to the Bengals, and you're like, well, okay, well, this is, hopefully we can actually win one, not lose one, win one, lose one, win one. Actually, no, you're going to lose to, let's see, you're going to lose to the Bengals. So you're going to be 2-3 coming out of week 5. Going against the Chiefs. Well, crap. Okay, well, we're 2-3. We can't be 2-4. We desperately need to win this game for the Lions. So, in my mind, excited back against the wall because 3-3 sounds a whole lot better than 2-4. So, Lions get the win against the Chiefs. It's going to be a very hard game, absolutely. And then you beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going into bye. Okay, well, that's fine. We are 4-3 going into the bye. Then we have a division game against the Vikings. Like I said, to get a little more motivation. They beat the Vikings, and then in Week 10, we have a very pivotal game to make sure that how can we get back into this season? How can we get back into the playoff contention? How can we get back to division contention? I have them beating the Washington Commanders. So, 6-3 once again. So, as I mentioned before with the West, 6-3, 6-3, 6-4. With the North, I also have 6-3, 6-3, 6-3, and 5-4. Like I said, all these 4 teams are well within their right to possibly win the division. The Vikings are looking a little bit suspicious. They're 6-3, but that 0-2 is looming very large. The Lions already have 2 wins in the division, as not in this just past the halfway mark. So, I think the Lions are going to be a very scrappy team. I really like the Lions, and I'm hopeful that they can continue their pathway to potentially trying to make their first Super Bowl. Last one in the NFC, I'm going to have the East. Let's start off with the Eagles. I've talked about the Eagles enough, but let's start with them as far as how high can they possibly get. Well, especially with Micah Parsons gone, I think the Eagles are going to beat the Cowboys. And I don't know if it's going to be an embarrassing loss. I don't know if it's going to be that bad. But I will say that I think that there's going to be some people who start to overhype the Eagles immediately after beating the Cowboys. But I mean, who wouldn't? You're the defending Super Bowl champions. Sure, the Cowboys aren't as good as they used to be, but still in prime time. You start the season hot, 1-0, and then you get to go against the Kansas City Chiefs, and at Kansas City, no less. So at Kansas City wants to get their revenge, and they ain't gonna get it. The Eagles are gonna beat the Chiefs in Week 2, and as you see right now, they're 4-0 going into Week 5 against the Denver Broncos. So 4-0 going against the Denver Broncos. Denver Broncos seems to have a great defense, and the Eagles are hoping to keep their winning streak alive. However, I think the Broncos are going to be a very dangerous team. Their defense is going to keep them in every single game. I think that Bo Nix continues to improve. Is he going to be like an absolute all-star? No. But the defense is going to be kind of carrying that team at the very beginning of the season. See if their offense continues to roll with Bo Nix. Hopefully if they can kind of build upon what they did last year. The Broncos are going to be a very difficult team, and they're going to get the best of the Eagles. And the Eagles, obviously, they're going to beat I think they're going to sweep pretty easily the Giants. I don't think the Giants have even a chance against the Eagles. So going into Week 10, they beat the Green Bay Packers on Monday Night Football. I already talked about that, and they're on a bye week in Week 9. So they're 8-1. They're pretty clearly at the top. Oh, they're just running away with it. There's no way for them not to be the number 1 seed. But we'll talk about that development later on. Now the Commanders. Going against the Giants, Week 1. As is tradition for every single Week 1, there are a couple of games that make no sense whatsoever. And I think the Giants beat the Commanders in Week 1. Like I said, it makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. Like, how in the world are the Giants going to beat the Commanders? But I think they do. I think you start having some panic sets in with the Washington Commanders. Crap, they lose Week 2. Now they're 0-2. They're 0-2 to start the season. This is supposed to be a team that has aspiration to make it back to the NFC Championship game. They got to right the ship in Week 3. So, in Week 3, they're able to defeat the Raiders. Okay, now we're in the win column. Win against the Falcons. Okay, we're feeling a little bit better. Now we're going to go to the Chargers. Okay, that's a little bit difficult. At the Chargers. Are we going to pull it off? I think they do. Okay, now they're going on a 4-game win streak. They are 4-2 once again, just like they were last year. 4-2 going into Week 7. Okay, we're going against the Cowboys. The Cowboys, they don't have Micah Parsons anymore. We're looking pretty good. We're looking fine. We're able to, get, back on track, able to win a game in the division. Nope. I got the Cowboys winning at home. Crap. Now the Commanders are 0-2 in the division. They're 4-3, and they got to play the Chiefs. And I had them losing the Chiefs on Monday Night Football. I mean, if you're a Commanders fan, you're like, crap. Okay, now we're 4-4. We have to win this game. We can't continue to be like, winning and losing and winning and losing. We were 4-2, and now we're 4-4. We have to win this game. They beat the Seahawks to make it 5-4, but then they lose to the Lions to make it 5-5. Like I said, the Lions get their revenge against the Commanders. So now you're 5-5. You're 0-2 in division. Now you are basically fighting to try to stay in the division race because at this point, it's almost looking like a runaway division for the Eagles. Now the Cowboys come into play. And the Cowboys are like, okay, well, we lost Micah Parsons. We have one week. Like I said, I think they're going to lose Week 1. Cowboys just don't lose to the Giants. I don't think it's going to start now. And then, oh, crap. We lose to the Bears. We lose to the Green Bay Packers. Now we're 1-4. We're 1-3. Okay, well, let's try to get back on track. We have some little cupcakes in here. Okay, well, we'll beat the Jets. They'll beat the Jets. They'll beat the Panthers. Okay, you know what? Okay, fine. We're 3-3. We're 3-3. We're fine. We're going against the Commanders, who are 4-2, who are on a 4-game win streak. And they beat them. Okay, so now they feel more comfortable. Okay, you know what? We're 4-3. We're on a 3-game win streak. Let's go against the Broncos. Let's actually continue this path, and they get I'm saying they get dominated I think the Cowboys get dominated by the Broncos in Mile High Stadium with that defense. I think they get dominated and they get a little taste of humble pie. Crap. Now we're 4-4. Go against the Cardinals, who a lot of people are talking about as being really, really good, and they defeat the Cardinals going into bye week. So now they're 5-4. They're above the Commanders. It's still looking like it's Eagles' division to kind of win, but you're feeling pretty good. You're like, you know what? We're fine. We're fine. Hopefully, we can still make the playoffs. And then for the Giants, like I said, I don't feel comfortable at all picking the Giants. And I know the Giants are going to do better than my prediction says, but I just don't feel comfortable with it. Like I said, I mean, do you honestly think the Giants are going to defeat the Kansas City Chiefs, the LA Chargers, the Denver Broncos? Because I certainly don't. Like I said, look at these. Look at their schedule. They have the Commanders, okay? Then they have the Cowboys. 2 division games. Then you got 2 of the best teams in the AFC right now. Then you got the Saints. You're hoping you beat the Saints, but I think at a home game against the Saints, you can't overlook and look forward towards the Eagles game. You're going to lose. You might lose this game, and I have you losing this game. Eagles, way better than you. Broncos, way better than you. Eagles once again, and then you got the 49ers and the Bears. Like I said, I think it's going to be really, really bad for the Giants. And unfortunately, I think that people are going to lose their jobs. I really do. I think that it's going to be so bad that by midseason they're going to be like, okay, let's just cut bait. Let's start Jackson Dart, see if something happens. And I don't believe in Jackson Dart. So you can see right here, this is the NFC at Week 10. How the playoff push is kind of looking right now. Okay, so you start to see it. Let's talk about the AFC. I've already mentioned before how, I think the Denver Broncos are going to have a really good defense. And I think they're going to start off the season pretty hot too. So the Broncos, like I said, I have them starting off kind of hot. I'm having them dominate the 2 easy games on the schedule. You got the Titans and you got the Colts. Like I said, AFC South teams, very easy schedule. I think this right here is going to cause a lot of Broncos fans to have a lot more confidence. They probably should at the beginning of the year, and they're going to get brought down to earth because they're going to lose against the Chargers at home. Like I said, Chargers are going to be a very good team too. I think you're going to get, like I said, these are 2 really bad teams. 2 really bad teams that you're going to dominate. You're going to look good. You're going to think this is going to be the best season possible, brought down to earth. But then Monday night game against the Bengals, I think you win against the Bengals. Like I said, I think your defense is way too good for the one thing the Bengals can do is try to keep up with you. And then they're not going to be able to because the fact that your defense is going to be so smothering. Goodness gracious. Like I said, surprise win against the Eagles. All right, we're looking pretty good. And then we go against the Jets. All right, so week 6. And I have y'all with a win. So now, as you can see, you're going on a win streak. After that devastating loss to the Chargers in week 3, you got win in week 4, win in week 5, win in week 6, win in week 7, win in week 8. Crap, look at that. 5-game win streak for the Denver Broncos. Going into week 9, you're feeling pretty good about yourself. You're like, you know what? We're doing really good. And then you remember, okay, we're going to the Texans. We're going to be in Texas. In Houston. This is probably going to be a primetime game if I had to guess, especially how I feel. I'm trying to remember what the other week 9 games are. But this is going to be a test for the Broncos. Right now, you've had some tough tests. Like I said, you had the Eagles. You lost to the Chargers. I think you're going to lose to the Texans. The win streak comes to an end, but you're able to bounce back, and you're able to get a win against the Raiders on Thursday Night Football. So you're 8-2. You're 1-1 division. you're feeling pretty good. Yeah, you lost against the Chargers, but you gotta win against the Raiders, which is always good if you're the Denver Broncos. Speaking of, let's talk about the Chargers. The Chargers are the other team that I feel pretty confident they're going to be good this year. Now, how good? That's where I'm a little bit confused on, especially with the loss of Rashawn Slater. I'm still thinking, all right, well, let's look here. If Rashawn Slater is out for the whole entire season, we got to try to figure out a way to try to beat the Chiefs in week one to get a good start on the season. However, it's week one. Chiefs had all offseason to think about the fact that they lost the chance of winning 3 straight. I think the Chiefs win this one. I think the Chiefs win this one. I think that the Chargers are actually going to come out the gate kind of slow. And I think they're going to lose on a Monday night game to the Raiders. Like I said, I think the Raiders are a very chippy team. And crap, okay, they're 0-2 going against the Broncos, who are 2-0. And like I said, the Broncos just finished dominating 2 people. That's the reason why I think this win is very, very telling that, okay, actually, no, the Chargers are good. They're finally getting themselves in a little bit of a rhythm. They're like, we can't go 0-3 to start the season. They 0-2, win the game, win against the Giants, lose against the Commanders. But at the same time, okay, well, the season's not totally over. We're not totally screwed. How are we going to do it in week 6? What are we doing in week 6? Week 6, we got the Dolphins in Miami. But it's not going to – I don't think it's going to be really, really hot at that point in time. It's going to be, October? Yeah, I'm still going to take the Chargers. Like I said, Herbert versus Tua. If Tua is still playing at this point in time, who really even knows? And the week 7, I mean, you got the Colts. I mean, let's be honest. I'm like I said, I'm just not have any faith in the Colts at all. I really don't. And I would be very shocked. I would be very, very shocked if the Colts do anything this season. Before I talk about J.J. McCarthy getting his win against his former head coach, but then you go against the Titans in Tennessee. Like I said, you're like, okay, well, we can be able to win this game. We're able to, bounce back and get a little victory. Going into Week 10, okay, we're going against Aaron Rodgers. We're hoping we can get a little bit of victory. We're hoping that, we can continue on this path of, still, kind of trailing the Broncos. But I think that Aaron Rodgers gets a win in LA versus the Chargers to make the Chargers 5-5. Like I said, start of the season, they're 5-5. Dang it. Okay, well, we're 1-2 in the division. That's not looking too good. Well, let's look at the other division. How is the Chiefs doing this year? Like I said, Chiefs are going to be very motivated, very, very motivated this year. So Chiefs, like I said, no less. And you're like, okay, well, let's see if they can continue their winning ways, and I think they do. Like I said, they're starting off pretty good. Okay, well, within week 4, we're 3-1. We're going against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Can we continue on this path? Well, you absolutely can. And you're going to be the Jacksonville Jaguars. And now you're 4-1. Your one loss against the Eagles, you're feeling pretty good. Going against the Lions, the Lions have been up and down so far this season. And then you lose to the Lions. Okay, well, that's gonna kind of suck, but that's fine. Going against the Raiders, we always beat the Raiders, and then you defeat the Raiders. You defeat the Raiders in week 7. You defeat the Commanders in week 8. You're feeling really good. Then you're going to week 9, right before your bye, and crap. You got to go to Highland Park. You got to go against the Bills. The Bills usually have your number in the regular season. However, this is different this year. I got the Chiefs winning at the Bills in the regular season to go into the bye week with a 7-2 record. And they are trailing just behind by a game by the Denver Broncos, and they themselves are 2-0 in the division. Like I said, I think this is going to be a very tight race for the division. So let's talk about the Raiders. I've already mentioned before how I think the Raiders are going to be a very, very scrappy team. I think that they're going to come out the gate kind of like, I don't want to say a little wishy-washy. That's not the right word I'm going to be using. but I think they're going to come up the gate a little bit, look back and forth. So they lose to the Patriots. The offensive coordinator gets a little revenge against the Raiders. Um, so back and forth we go. Loss, win, loss, win. What are we going to do against the Colts? Are we going to lose this game? Hopefully not. Well, guess what? Yep, you're going to lose this game. Lose against the Colts. And the Colts, like I said, I just don't think they're going to be good. But I think they're going to win some games they probably shouldn't. Okay, well, are we going to lose against the Titans? Surely we can't lose against the Titans. Well, yeah, you know what? You're not going to. You're going to win the home game against the Titans. It's loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. Bye week. Okay. So out of the bye week, we're 3-4. We're hoping that we can kind of let's try to get that win. Hopefully, we can kind of get our season back on track. We're going against the Jaguars. All right. So how are we feeling against the Jaguars? At home, let's get a win. As you can see, I think the Raiders are going to be a weird team. It's loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. I think the Raiders are going to be a scrappy team. They're going to be very unpredictable as a result. I'm just kind of I'm finding something there. They're 4-5. They're probably not going to make they're probably not going to win the division. They're 1-2 in the division, but I think they're going to be a scrappy team. I think this is going to be the first year in a rebuild for Pete Carroll. Now let's talk about the AFC South. Like I said, I think the AFC South is an interesting one for sure. And let me talk about the Colts. I've talked about the Colts a little bit. I just don't feel comfortable with them. Actually, let me say the AFC South. The AFC South, I feel is going to be kind of similar to the NFC South. So let me say it then for last. Let's talk about the North. Like I said, I love the Ravens this year. I am buying into the hype. I think that this Week 1 matchup determines who wins the first overall seed. So this right here is so important for not only the Ravens, but the Bills to get home field advantage throughout the playoffs. And I think the Ravens are going to win. I think the Ravens are going to win in Week 1. And we're going to look back at it. We're going to see that these are the top two seeds. They might be tied. And you're like, well, there it is right there. That Week 1 matchup is what caused the Bills to have to be the 2 seed and have to play in the wild card. Week 2, you're going against the Browns. I'm sorry. Like, if you lose to the Browns in Week 2, let's not make this be the Raiders of Week 2 last year. You got to beat the Browns. I've already talked about it before. They're beating the Lions. Lose to the Chiefs. Going into Week 5. Okay, how are we feeling Week 5? We're like, let's get off of our first loss, which is going to suck against the Chiefs. Let's get our revenge. Let's beat the Texans, and let's get back on that train. So then they beat the Rams, go into a bye. They beat the Bears, and then Thursday Night Football in Miami on Thursday, and it's not going to be hot. I mean, it should be pretty obviously that I'm going to be taking the Ravens. So the Ravens are going to beat the Dolphins, and then they're going to lose to the Vikings. So the Ravens are 7-2. So Ravens are 7-2. Broncos are 8-2. Like I said, these are going to be teams that are going to be competing for the top of AFC. I just think the AFC North is not going to be as good as AFC West. So let's talk about Aaron Rodgers' teams and the Steelers. The Steelers are going to be an interesting team for sure because I think they're going to start the season hot. I think there's going to be some people who think they're going to start off slow, but let's look at it. You got the Jets, so you got the revenge game. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to get revenge against the Jets because the Jets are not a good team. Got them against the against the Seahawks. Like I said, I think it's a home game. It's going to be good for the Steelers. All the Steelers fans are going to come out. They just beat the Jets, which is not really saying much. And then they beat the Seahawks. Then they got to go to the Patriots that usually cause them so much horror. So much horror during the Big Ben prime years. They get a win. So they started the season 3-0. Start with the season 3-0. There's starting to be talk of like, okay, well, with Aaron Rodgers at helm, are the Steelers for real? Are they not for real? And then they're going to lose in Ireland to the Vikings, and there's going to be a narrative, like especially with the bye week, of like, oh, were the Steelers actual real? Were they, were they just faking us the whole entire time? But then they get a tune-up game. They get a tune-up game against the Browns. So okay, well, they get a tune-up game. You're 4-1. You're still feeling good. You're coming off a bye. Hopefully, kind of right the ship. Week 7. You're going against the Bengals. That's fine. You're going against the division rival. Just win this game and get in Thursday Night Football. All will be good. And then they lose. Okay, you lose to the Bengals. You lose to the Packers. Well, we can't lose to the Colts. We gotta win. We gotta beat the Colts. So they beat the Colts. They get back on the win streak, and then they surprise and they win in LA. So now they're 6-3. They're 1-1 division. They're about a game and a half behind the Ravens. So they're feeling pretty good. They're like, okay, well, we're still with it. We're still in it. We're not doing too bad. We're fine. So let's start with the Bengals. Now I want to preface this. The Bengals last year started off the season really, really bad. Like really, really bad. Do I think it's going to be much the same? Yes. Do I notice the fact that their first 2 games are against 2 teams that I have no faith in? Absolutely. But I still feel like the Bengals are going to start off the season 0-4. That's right. I believe the Bengals are going to be so bad at the beginning of the season that everyone is going to be clamoring for, we should have re-signed Trey Hendrickson sooner. Now the season's pretty much a wash because he's trying to get back into shape. This season is terrible. What is Mike Brown doing? Why do I keep on rooting for this team? You're gonna have all that kind of stuff happening. You're gonna be like, a lot of people are gonna be like, I can't believe I fell for this again. We're 0-4. Things are not looking good. And then you go against the Lions and you beat the Lions. Like I said, it makes no sense. The Bengals are going to be one of the teams that makes no sense this year. They start off 0-4. They look very dire. And then they beat 3 straight teams that are looking that they're going to make the playoffs. Like I said, it's the same thing the Bengals did last year. It made no sense whatsoever, but they just found a way to win. And especially with their offense being as good as it is, they're going to be in every single game. Now, is this exactly how it's going to go? Maybe, maybe not. But I do think there's a chance that the Bengals can be in a situation where they're like, okay, well, we are. Wait, let me make sure. Did I put that right? Steelers. Yeah, I think I did that right. I'm right now looking at my schedule, making sure I got that right. I think I'm good. I'll figure out at the very end if I'm wrong or not. But the Bengals beating the Jets in Week 8, losing to the Bears, and then they are 4-5 by Week 10. Now let me double check and make sure that I got this right. Yeah, I got it right. Okay, I was making sure because I was like, I want to make sure I don't mess up where I had the divisions. I had to like write stuff down kind of quickly to make sure I couldn't have it on actual paper. Normally I just have it in my notes. So that's how I have the Bengals going. And now we have the lowly Browns. I'm sorry, Browns fans. I just can't. I can't this year. I want y'all to be good, but let's be honest, it's not going to happen. I think the Browns are going to win Week 1, and they're going to lose. 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 I think it's going to be really bad for the Browns. But I think at the end of the day, you're going to have definitely a top 3 pick with your own pick. And then however the Jaguars go, you also have their first round pick. I'm hopeful for the Browns that they're able to rebuild their roster and be able to be in a good spot. Now let's go talk about the East. So the East is interesting. Let's talk about the Bills. I love the Bills. I want the Bills to do well this year. I think they'll be competing for the first seed. I'm losing to the Ravens. But then we're going to go on 3 straight wins. We beat a division rival. Okay. We beat a division rival. We beat another division rival. Okay. And a little cakewalk. Okay. So, we got 3-1. We're 3-1. We're going against the Patriots. Okay. We're feeling pretty good. Week 5. Are we going to go 3-0 in the division? Yes, we are. We're going 3-0 in the division. 3-0 in the division. You're 4-1. You go Monday Night Football against the in Atlanta, and you beat Atlanta, and now you're on bye. You're 5-1 going to the bye. You're feeling pretty good. Now you're going to the Carolina Panthers. This is a toss-up. You win against the Carolina Panthers. Now you're 6-1. You're going against the Chiefs. You always beat the Chiefs in the regular season. That's just what you do. And then you lose. That's right. You lose to the Chiefs. A little bit of a shocker. You're like, okay, well, that's gonna kind of screw us up a little bit. And now you're gonna take out your anger on the Miami Dolphins. So you're 7-2. You're looking pretty good. You're feeling pretty good. Well, how does that compare to the to the Patriots? Like I said, Patriots have the easy schedule. I'm sorry, but let's look at it. Of course, you got your division, but you got the Raiders. Then you got the Dolphins, but you got the Dolphins early, so I'll give it to the Dolphins. I'm like, you know what, Dolphins? It's gonna be hot. It's gonna be at home early in the season, and I think you're gonna be able to get to the Patriots. So Patriots are 1-2 right here. Then easy game against the Panthers, so they're 2-2. Loss against the Bills. Win against a cupcake. Are we going to win against another cupcake? You better believe we're going to win against another cupcake. So they're able to make sure, able to beat the Titans, beat the Browns, beat the beat the Falcons, beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So now they're on a 5-game win streak after being probably embarrassed by the Bills, and they're 7-3. Sure, they're 0-2 in the division, and the Bills are 4-0 in the division, but they're still within striking distance. They're still feeling pretty good. Let's talk about the Dolphins. The Dolphins are in a little bit of a tricky situation. I think the Dolphins start off 2-0. They start off 2-0. I think people feel confident, like, okay, well, yeah, sure. I mean, we beat the Colts, but what does that really tell us? Oh, we beat the Patriots. Okay, we're 2-0. We're feeling pretty good. We're feeling like things can kind of get things can get on the right track. And then you lose to the Bills. You're like, okay, well we're only 2-1. We're only 2-1. We're going against the Jets. We should be able to win this game. At home, it's going to be hot. It's going to be on Monday Night Football. It's going to be very humid. We win this game. Okay, so we're 3-1. We're 3-1. And then you lose to the Panthers. Like I said, it makes no sense at all. You're 3-1. You lose to the Panthers. Okay, well that's fine. Let's just go back home. We'll recuperate. Oh, we lost to the Chargers. Oh, okay. So now we're 3-3. Well, okay. Well, let's see. Now we're 4-3. Like I said, we beat the Browns. That's fine. Then we're gonna go to Atlanta, and we lose to Atlanta. Okay, so we lose to Atlanta. That's not good. And then you have 2 really hard games against the Ravens and the Bills. And now you're 4-6. You're 4-6. You're 2-2 in the division. It is not looking good for you right there. Let me talk about the Jets. The Jets are in an interesting spot, mainly because of the fact that I'm trying to remember who I had winning. Okay, no. We're good with the Jets. We cover all the Jets. So let's talk about the Texans here. So the Texans, they're 0-2 to start the season. Just like how the Rams were 0-2, Rams came back and won. I think the same thing would happen for the Texans. Texans are 0-2. They're looking at like, okay, well, that's not great. And they're 0-3 now. That's right. 0-2, 0-3. You have a division loss. This is looking bad. This is looking really bad right now. You're struggling out the gate. You already have a division loss, but you always lose to Jacksonville anyway. So it's a weird beginning for Texans fans, and a lot of Texans fans are going to be very concerned, like, oh no. And then couple this was also with Bama struggling as well. A lot of people are going to be like, oh, is DeMeco actually going to go to Bama? He's not going to go to Bama. Texans win against the Titans. Okay, well, we win against the Titans. We're 1-3, not good, but we got another division win. We're fine. And then they lose to the Ravens, and they fall to 1-4 going into the bye. And a lot of Texas fans are going to be very concerned. They're like, oh my word, we're 1-4, we're 1-1 in the division. This is not looking good. We got to get things. We got to get things back together. And then they go to Seattle and they win against Seattle on Monday Night Football. And then DeMeco gets his revenge game against the 49ers. And then you have a surprise game where you beat the Denver Broncos. Let me remind you, you were 1-4. Now you're 4-4. Going into Week 10 against Jacksonville Jaguars. Jacksonville Jaguars have just beaten you before, and you win. Now you're 5-4. You're on a 4-game win streak out of the bye, and you're 2-1 in the division. Like I said, I think AFC South, NFC South is going to be a grudge match. It's going to be back and forth. But I think the AFC South is going to be a little bit different because of the fact I think it's going to be just between two teams. I have no faith whatsoever in the other two teams. So, Jacksonville's pretty much been taken care of. Let's talk about the Tennessee Titans because I want them to be 0-7. They're not going to be 0-7, hopefully. So, who are the Titans actually going to beat? I have them beating the Colts. I have the Titans beating the Colts. And then the Colts, guess what? Well, in Week 8, they're going to get their revenge. So we have a split. We have a split between these two teams, the Colts and the Titans. Bottom, like I said, it's 1-8 for the Titans. Things aren't looking good, but I think the Titans can still be like a competitive team at the same time. I think they're going to be like, back and forth. And this right here, you can see is going to be how I see like going into Week 10. So going into Week 10, we're able to see that it's still a competitive matchup. You're able to see the AFC. The Denver Broncos are the first seed looking at right now. But right behind them are the Ravens and the Bills and the Patriots and the Chiefs. Sorry, I'm taking a little swig of my drink because I've been talking for a good little bit. All right. Now I kind of kick it to overdrive. How is it going to go week to week? Like I said, I already talked about like the Week 10. I kind of like doing that mainly because of the fact that it's good to kind of show how the playoff push is going to be kind of looking. So I like to kind of show up into Week 10 in case you're new, in case you haven't seen what I've done before. So now let's go into Week 11. Okay, so Week 11, let's go AFC first. So Week 11 for the Patriots against the Jets. I have the Patriots getting a W. Texans, they're gonna lose. Crap, they're gonna lose at the Tennessee Titans. Then you got the Bills. You got the Bengals at the Steelers. Like I said, it's an NFC North grudge match. It's going to be back and forth. I think the Steelers are going to win this one. It's a home game. Then you have Chargers versus the Jags. I think the Jaguars are unfortunately going to lose this one. Like I said, they're going to be a little bit of downward spiral in this season. This is a huge matchup. The Chiefs at the Denver Broncos. Denver Broncos coming in. They're like, okay, well, we're fine. We're still fine. We're at the top of the division. You lose. You lose at home to the Chiefs. Now the Chiefs are above you. They're the first seed. You're like, crap. You had it. If you win this one, you're a step ahead of the Chiefs. And now the Chiefs won again. And now you're going to be kind of playing behind the 8 ball. Ravens, you're going to win this one. I'm sorry. Like I said, I don't have any kind of faith in the Browns until you show me otherwise. Until you show me otherwise, I have no faith whatsoever in the Browns. Let's start with the Madrid game. I've already talked about it before, but I don't really believe in the Dolphins at all. So I think it's going to be pretty easy. I think the Commanders are going to win this one in Madrid. It's going to be a fun game for the Commanders. I'll give them that. And then we have the very interesting matchup of the Buccaneers versus the Bills. So Buccaneers versus the Bills in Week 11. Like I said, I think that the Bills are just too much of a tough test for the Buccaneers. Got to beat the Buccaneers. And then you got the Cowboys versus the Raiders. And the Cowboys versus Raiders, I think, is pretty obvious. Like I said, if Micah Parsons was here, it would be an absolute win. I think it's going to be a hard-fought win on Monday Night Football. I think that might be actually flexed if I'm actually looking at it right now. And I think the Cowboys are going to win it. I think it's going to be a close one, though. I think it's going to be a really close one. Let's talk about NFC. Let me skip ahead right here. Falcons get the first one. I think it's going to be split. I think that, like I said, it's a division matchup. It's going to be split. Over here, it's obviously going to be Packers. Packers are going to be way better than the lowly Giants. Now, the other ones are going to be interesting matchups. So, you have the NFC North on the line. Well, not on the line, but like as far as trying to stay in contention. Because you got the 0-2 versus the 1-1 Vikings at Week 11. You're going to get your win. You're going to get your first division win against the team that beat you in the Week 1. And you're going to still be in consideration to be at the top of the division at the very end of the year. Now, NFC West. I already talked about how the Seahawks were kind of like on their last rope. Unfortunately, I have them losing again, and now it is desperation mode to try to make the playoffs. They're 3-7. It's not looking good at all. And if I'm gonna be honest, this is where the Seattle Seahawks are gonna be the ones to be like, okay, we were hoping for better, but they're not gonna make the playoffs this year. Now you have the Cardinals and the 49ers. Okay, as you can see, they're 7-8 right now. They're looking at, okay, who's gonna make the wild card? Who's still gonna be competing for the division? A huge matchup right here. Huge matchup. And at the end of the day, I'm gonna go with. See who I have. That's right. The 49ers with the win. So 49ers gets their get back. They win at Arizona. And they put themselves in a good spot to try to win this division. Eagles, Lions, what could have been last year, but unfortunately fell flat. Lions in Week 11 are going to get the win against the 8-1. So Lions get a huge win. Huge win. Make them 7-1. 7-1. And now they're going to be going into the 5th seed right behind the Green Bay Packers. So that win in Week 1 for the Green Bay Packers is the only thing that's keeping them up in contention for that division right now. The Lions are on their back. What's the word I'm looking for? The Lions are well within reach. That's what I should have said. All right, let's keep on the NFC. That's why I have paper right now in front of me. Talking about the Packers and the Vikings. Week 12. I'm going to have the Packers winning against the Vikings, setting themselves apart a little bit even more. And now I'm kind of plunging the Vikings into, okay, well, now we're 7-4. We're not. It's still fine. We can still, make a playoffs, but it's looking like the division is going to be out without reach, especially at 1-3 in the division. Like I said, I have no faith whatsoever in the Giants. It's just not going to happen. I have no faith whatsoever in the Saints either at this point in time. The Saints and the Giants are going to be tanking to try to get one of the top quarterbacks. Because at this point, maybe Jackson Arnold is going to be starting, but at the same exact time, I don't think it's going to look really impressive. I just don't believe in him. Don't believe in him. And then this one right here, obviously, I want the Panthers to win, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think Monday Night Football, I think the 49ers are going to win this one, unfortunately for me. I might stream this one. I'm still deciding if I want to or not. But the Rams versus the Buccaneers, huge game. Huge game, especially for playoffs implications. in Week 12, and I have the Rams winning this one at home. Um, like I said, they have to keep up to make sure that they are still in the lead for this division. And right now, it's still looking like the Falcons division because right now the Falcons are 5-6, we're 5-7. The goodness gracious, the Buccaneers are 4-7. So right now, after this division win, you're 3-1 in the division. You're looking pretty good. Well, let's talk about another division. Is the Eagles going to continue to be good, and they'll be able to kind of handle their business and be able to? This is week 12, right? Yes, week 12. I think that unfortunately, the Cowboys are going to be swept by the Eagles this year. I say unfortunately, but like it's kind of easy to be seen. I mean, it's 9-2. They pretty much are running away with the division at this point. Like I said, I think it'd be the first time since I'm trying to remember the last time. I think it was 2005 that you had back-to-back division winners. And I don't think I would be very shocked for the Eagles to not win the division this year, unless someone gets hurt. That's the only way I can see it. Keeping up with the NFC against the AFC, Steelers versus the Bears. Like I said, going into Week 12, you're hoping that the Bears can get a win, especially against one of their arch nemesis and Aaron Rodgers. But do you really think it's going to happen? I think it is. I think the Bears are going to be able to get the win at home. They beat Aaron Rodgers at the Steelers, like against the Steelers, and it's going to be really good for the Bears to be able to stay the claim of hey, we can still win this. We can still make the playoffs. We're 6-5, with everything still in front of us. Going to be kind of scratching and clawing to make it, but you still have a chance. Right now, you're 9th in the standings. You still have a chance of potentially trying to sneak into the playoffs. And then you got the Seattle Seahawks versus the Tennessee Titans. Like I said, I don't really feel comfortable with the Seahawks, but I think they're going to win this one. Like I said, the defense for the Seahawks against Cam Ward is going to be kind of difficult for him, unfortunately. And I think he's going to win. And the Cardinals are going to win this one at home. Still putting themselves in good enough position to, still be possibly be a playoff team. Possibly still competing for the division. Things are still looking kind of close in the NFC West. And let's go over to the AFC. So the AFC, you got the Bills coming to the Texans, and let's be honest, the Texans, they're kind of reeling. They're 5-5. They're going against the juggernaut 8-2 Bills. But I did tell you that I think that the Texans are going to be some playoff teams. I think this is one of them. The Texans upset the Bills on Thursday Night Football in front of, and it's going to be a great game for Amazon Prime to have because it's going to be almost a playoff game because this is going to indicate who's going to win divisions, who's going to be on what seed. This is a huge game. I think the Texans are going to win this one at home. I mean, we look at this game. This is going to be the Chiefs. I'm sorry. Like I said, I just don't believe. I really don't. I really don't believe at all in the Colts. I think the Colts are going to be really bad. They're going to be absolutely abhorrent. Let's see here. Bengals, week 12. I do have them beating the New England Patriots, which is going to be huge for the Bills right now because now they're still in the lead for the division. Because of the Patriots still on their tail. And the Bengals are fighting for the playoff spot. Like I said, same thing that happened last year. They're going on a little bit of a run after starting the season so horribly. And I think the Bengals are going to be an interesting watch the whole entire season, just like where they were last year. Ravens here against the Jets. I mean, come on, it's going to be Ravens. Ravens defeating the Jets. Like I said, I'd be very surprised if they didn't. And then, like I said, on Sunday night, not Sunday night, but one of the Sunday games, like I said, if I'm the Raiders, this should be an easy win for me. I mean, if I lose to the Browns, I feel pretty awful about myself and awful about my prospects this year because you're 5-6, and you're still in potential for making a playoff spot. You gotta fight and claw to make it, but you still have a chance of making it to the playoffs. Especially, I mean, look at here, you got the Chargers who are 6-5 at this point. Keep an eye on that. Now, continue with the AFC. Let's see here. Okay, well we got a division game. Got the Bills. Sorry, the Bengals versus the Ravens. Week 13. I'm sorry, but the Ravens are just too hot right now. The Ravens are too good. Thursday Night Football is going to be a great matchup, but unfortunately, the Ravens are still going to win. Then we got the Jaguars versus the Titans. Look at Jags versus Titans. How we feeling? How we feeling? Week 13. Titans are going to win. Okay, well now the Titans are, they're not terrible. They're 3-9. I was going to say 3-9. By their standard, they're 3-9. They're still fine. You're not going to win the playoff game or anything like that, but you got to win your division. You're hoping that Cam Ward continues to look good. Yeah, I mean, you're not clamoring for, oh, well, we won, now we kind of mess up our draft pick, but you're feeling pretty good about the fact that Cam Ward starts to look good at this point. I think by that week 10, after week 10, the Titans with Cam Ward are going to kind of find their groove. Like I say, he's going to make some plays, and he's going to have the fan base feeling like, okay, we still have something in him. We still have some hope that things can get better. Week 13 for the Texans, like I said, they're going to continue on their win streak against the Colts. Chargers in week 13 going against the Raiders. I got them getting a win. Like I said, the Chargers are trying to make the playoffs really, really hard. 7-5. Okay, still within striking distance. And then you got this right here. Aaron Rodgers versus Josh Allen. Aaron Rodgers versus Josh Allen is going to be a pretty good matchup. Going into week 13, you're going into playoff season. Steelers go back-to-back losses. And now it's against the Bills, and the Bills are still trying to fight their way back to try to get that number 1 overall seed. Now we got the Cowboys versus Cowboys versus the Chiefs, and this one I believe is on Thanksgiving if I'm correct. So Chiefs are on prime time. They're going up against the Cowboys. They're feeling pretty good about themselves. Cowboys, they're 6-5. They're like, kind of crap. Like, well, hopefully we can kind of make it to the playoffs, and they win on Thanksgiving, which is so crazy. Like I said, I think it's gonna be a back and forth kind of game. I think the Chiefs are the better team, but every single year there is a team that the Chiefs should not lose to that they end up losing to, and this is going to be one of those teams. And now they're 9-3. Yes, they're 3-0 in division, but now they're 9-3, and the Broncos are still well within reach. And speaking of the Broncos, going into Week 13, guess what? Week 13, they get the win against the Commanders. And now, you're looking at it, and they're tied up. You had division rankings, so division games are going to be super duper important for the Broncos later on down the line. But now they're within striking distance. I mentioned this before with the Jets, and I think they're going to be a scrappy team, but at the same time, I just don't have any kind of faith whatsoever. I think that the Falcons are going to live a win streak. They defeat the Jets, and they're kind of separating themselves a little bit from the pack because now they're 6-6, and the rest of the teams are not going to be looking pretty good because I got the Rams beating the Panthers. And if I remember correctly, let me see if I had the Buccaneers winning. I think I had the Buccaneers winning Week 13. Yes, I did. Buccaneers in their skid, and they win. So now they are tied with the Panthers. No, sorry. Panthers still 5-8 because they don't have a bye week yet. But it's still looking like a crappy division right now. You can look at that right there and tell it looks like a crappy division. Where are we at? That's right. Dolphins, Week 13 win against the Saints. Like I said, Saints are bottoming out. I mean, 49ers, easy match for them. Patriots, this is going to be flexed out. This is nowhere it's going to be a Monday night game. Patriots win. They're breathing down the Bills' necks for the division. Huge game right here. Huge game. So, Week 13, we got the top two teams, not top two teams, but two of the top teams in the NFC. How's it going to go? Well, Week 13, better believe it, I have the Lions getting their revenge, beating the Packers, and now they're the ones in the lead with like I said, splitting. They're splitting the division right now. We're splitting the win loss. Eagles are to continue on their path on Black Friday against the Bears. You better believe it. The Eagles are going to win in Week 13. Yes, they do. I had to make sure, double check. Beat the Bears, and now the Bears are looking like okay, we're 6-6, not looking too good for us trying to make the playoffs. We pretty much have to win out, or we gotta have one more loss, or else we're out. This is huge too. Seahawks are still going to be fighting. A home game for the Seattle Seahawks. Can they kind of break the stride of the Vikings? That's what you're hoping for. Week 13, are they going to do it? I don't think they are. I think the Vikings are going to win, continue on this path of trying to try to get that division lead. Probably not because that 1-3 in the division. It's probably going to be very hard for them to do so, but they're going to try it regardless. So, oh, nope, don't want to do that. Sorry about that. Go to next. So week 14. Make sure there's nobody in the comment section. Nope. Okay. So week 14. Start with the AFC. Got Dolphins and Jets. Where we at? There we got week 14. Oh, that's right. So far the Jets have looked pretty awful. They're 1-11. 1-11, okay? Home game against the Dolphins. I think Aaron Glenn gets a win here. Like I said, it's been a while, and the Jets, they're going to be some people are going to be upset because they kind of mess up their draft stock, but it's a good culture win to win division games. Division game right here as well. How is this going to go? How is the Steelers versus the Ravens? I mean, right now the Ravens are kind of running away with the division, 8-2, but if they lose, then right now it's looking pretty good for the Steelers. So Ravens, how you doing in Week 14? You winning. The Steelers are on a 3-game skid. Like I said, Steelers are going to be interesting. Are going to be interesting right now. They were 7-3. Now they're 7-6. Right now, it's not looking too good. Sorry about that. My nose gets kind of stopped up. Jaguars in Week 14. Week 14, are they able to break their 5-game skin? That's right, 5 games in a row. I have the Jaguars losing. They end it with the win against the Colts. Titans, they're able to beat the lowly Browns. Like I said, are they messing up their draft stock a little bit? But I said this is what's happening. You have Cam Ward kind of coming to his own. Things are looking good, and at the same exact time, you're not looking for a quarterback, so it doesn't really matter as much exactly where you're picking because you're still going to be getting a great player regardless. Broncos in Week 14, like I said, you're coming off of a win. You're hoping they can continue on that streak. However, I actually have the Raiders winning. The Raiders winning at home. Like I said, the Raiders, for the last couple years, have been a very big thorn in the Broncos side, and this hurts even more because now the Broncos are 9-4, 1-3 in division, and the Chiefs are looking to try to capitalize on their misfortune. Bills and Bengals, always a big matchup. Obviously, the Bengals have been kind of in a little bit of a stupor the last couple of weeks. Hopefully they can get back on track, and I think they do. Like I said, crap. Now the Bills lose. The Bills lose. Like I said, it's crazy to think that they're going to lose to the Bengals, and almost assuredly, it's going to screw them over because now they're 2 losses behind the Ravens. They lost to the Ravens. Okay, but how can they make sure they can still try to win this division? All right, Week 14, you got the Chiefs versus the Titans for the Texans. I think that the Chiefs are going to win. I think the Chiefs are going to be 10-3. They're going to be, looking pretty good. They're going to be looking like they're going to win this division. Like I said, yeah, still a close. They're still a close enough game, but they don't really see anybody that's going to be able to really usurp them, right? However, the Chargers just beat the Eagles. Chargers beat Eagles on Monday night, and now the Chargers are 8-5. before they were looking kind of like a little bit suspect. They were like, okay, well, we're not looking too hot. And now they're on a 3-game win streak. Instead of being 5-5, they're 8-5. Sure, it's kind of like, can they actually win this division? Not really looking like they can. Like I said, they got to be able to make up some ground. But they're looking like they can actually be a playoff team. In the NFC, you got the Cowboys versus the Lions. Like the Cowboys had that wild win against the Chiefs on Thanksgiving, and that was Week 14, and I had them losing to the Lions on Thursday night. Lions, like I said, are continuing trying to win this division, trying to be the first overall seed. The the Green Bay Packers, they're going up against the Bears, and I mean they kind of dominate the Bears. I don't think it's going to change that much this year. And also, like I said, you're pretty much trying to make sure that you can kind of stay on track and try to make sure that you are in this game. You're trying to make sure that you're trying to win this division. You're a game behind, and you're a very talented team. If you're able to win this division and you're able to have home field advantage for the most part of this very, very competitive NFC playoffs, I feel like you're going to feel pretty good about that. Commanders versus Vikings, Week 14. I have the Vikings losing to the Commanders. So the Commanders win in Week 14 to try to make sure they can still, scrapping and clawing, trying to make the way into division. They're 7-6 right now. There's no way they're winning division. They're trying to make the playoffs, but right now it's not looking good. But you kind of screwed over the Vikings. Now the Vikings almost have no shot whatsoever of winning this division unless an absolute collapse by the Lions. So now the Lions are trying to break away from the Packers. The Falcons. The Falcons are going to continue on their path, win their third straight. Absolutely. Falcons win their third straight. Buccaneers beat the Saints. And then the Rams are going to defeat, right? No, the Rams are going to lose to the Cardinals. My bad. Sorry about that. Lose to the Cardinals. So now it is a tie. Well, really, one more division game for the 49ers against the Rams. The Cardinals are still within grasp. Right now, it's looking pretty good for the Falcons right now. They're 7-6. Still got everything in front of them. They're on a 3-game win streak. And, they're looking like they can probably win the division and finally break the streak for the NFC South. Like I said, NFC South has been the Buccaneers for the last 4 years. You're hoping that you can finally break that streak. And an easy way to make sure that you can get that division is by beating them on their home turf on Thursday Night Football. So, do I believe they're going to win? No. I think that the Buccaneers are going to end the Falcons' 3-game win streak and make a 3-game win streak of their own. So now, the Buccaneers are in the division lead. After struggling early in the season, after all of us have looked pretty bad, they actually win. And I think the Panthers also win to make us 6-8 and make us be in a good position where basically, at the very end of the season, we have to face off against the Buccaneers. And I'll come into play a little bit later. Like I said, I don't believe at all in the Giants, and also the Commanders are not going to be swept by the Giants. I'd be very surprised if that happens. Vikings versus the Cowboys. I have the Cowboys. Let's see. Cowboys winning against the Vikings. So the Vikings, two straight weeks have basically screwed themselves out of a playoff spot right now. They're 8-6. Now look at two division matchup. You have the Lions versus the Rams in Week 15, and I have the Rams losing. So the Rams, you were in the division lead. You let the 49ers get the better of you. The 49ers are absolutely going to beat the Titans. So now they're separating themselves from you. And it's looking like, okay, if the 49ers continue on this path, they're able to actually win this division. And right now they're the 3 seed. The Eagles going against the Eagles going against the Raiders. Like I said, they're on a big time win streak. Everything's looking good. I have the Eagles. Oh, sorry, they lost last week. That's right. The Eagles winning against the Raiders. I just make sure, double check. Bears beating the Browns. That's pretty obvious. Seattle, I have them. See, make sure. Yep, Seattle winning against the Colts. Huge games. So, Cardinals and Texans, huge game to make sure that either one of them try to make the playoffs because they're on the playoff push. Who's going to win? Well, in my humble opinion, I think the Cardinals, unfortunately, are going to lose against the Texans. The Texans are going to basically almost guarantee they're going to win this division. Right now, they're 8-6. Their next competition is 4-9. It's not even close. Now, this is also huge, too, because these are two competing franchises trying to make sure that they can actually, win the division. Both are fifth seeds at this point in time. And I actually believe that the Packers are going to win this game. At home or at Denver Broncos, it'll be a huge game. And unfortunately, it's looking pretty bad for the Broncos right now. You're 9-5, 1-3 in division. And then the Chiefs over here are 10-3, 3-0 in division. You need a big game for the Chargers right now, because if the Chiefs win against the Chiefs in Week 15, the way things are going right now, then you could say bye-bye to the division, and the Chiefs will win once again. However, I'm giving it for the Chargers. That's right. The Chargers defeat the Chiefs. They pretty much state their claim as we should be one of the playoff teams, and it's looking like a runaway for who's going to be in the playoffs. And right now, the Chargers are knocking on the door for the division. Earlier, it didn't even look like that. They were 5-5. Now they're on a 4-game win streak. They beat the Chiefs. They beat some of their opponents to make sure they're in prime position to try to win this division. The Bengals versus the Ravens. Obviously, like I said before, this is a huge matchup. And I actually have the Bengals winning this one. That's right. The Bengals win against the Ravens. They're 7-7. They're hoping and praying that somebody starts to fall flat. They're able to make it to the playoffs. Monday night football game. I got the Steelers winning this one against the Dolphins. But by this point, the Dolphins are, like I said, they're 5-8. It's not looking good. Team's going to be quitting on them. Jaguars Week 15. I got them getting a win. Like I said, they're mainly just trying to try to win, even though they don't have their first round pick. They're fine. This is huge right here. Huge game, Week 15. Probably might be a Sunday night game. Let's say there's a couple of good spots for potentially a Sunday night game. But Bills versus the Patriots. And in this instance, in Week 15, I got the Bills beating the Patriots, being 5-0 in the division. And right now, they're looking they're looking to be in a good spot to potentially make it to the playoffs as a division champion. Week 16, things are heating up. Let's go ahead and get over with some of the bad teams. Like I said, do I think the Saints are going to win any of the remaining games? No, I do not. I don't think they're going to win any of the remaining games. Jets get a win. Now they're 3-12. Okay, that's fine. Let's see here. Do I think that the Colts are going to win any of these things? Absolutely not. I don't think there's a chance at all that they're going to beat the 49ers. 49ers continue on the win streak. Oh, looky there. They are 11-4. Crazy. This is a huge game. Cowboys versus Commanders. Cowboys right now are 8-6. Commanders are 9-5. Whoever wins this game more likely is going to make it to the playoffs. So who do I have win this game? Well, it's pretty easy to see. It is Week 16. Cowboys unfortunately going to choke and are going to lose to the Chargers. and now they're 8-7, and it's not looking good. They're 10th right now. So how's it going to play out? Well, let's see here. You got another huge game too between two playoff teams. You got the Steelers and you got the Lions. Well, how is the Lions going to do in week 15? Sorry, week 16. They're going to beat Aaron Rodgers, and they're going to state their claim as, okay, we're 12-3 right now. We're looking pretty good. We're the number 1 overall seed. If we can continue on this path, we'll lock up home field advantage for the rest of the season. Eagles going against the Commanders for the first time. How do I think that the Eagles are going to do? Well, I should have the Commanders winning. That's right. The Commanders beat the Eagles to where now they're in a pretty good spot where all they've got to do is continue on that path, continue to win, and maybe, just maybe, they can supersede and win this division. Like I said, it's going to be a tough one for the Commanders, but they're fighting their way back to try to make sure they can get some home field advantage. Packers going against the Bears in week 16. I have the Bears losing, unfortunately. Like I said, they're being swept by the Packers. Packers are trying to keep up, trying to make sure they're able to get that division crown. Like I said, have no faith whatsoever in the Giants. We have the Cardinals, who are still trying to fight for a playoff spot. We have the Falcons, who are trying to make sure they win this division. And in week 16, the Falcons pretty much end the hopes and dreams for the Cardinals. It's not totally over, but it's looking pretty bad for the Cardinals. Then what about this game? This game is huge. This game is so huge for both teams to try to win this division. Like I said, 8-7, 7-7, 6-8. Well, how about we even the playing field between the Bucs and the Panthers? In week 16, I have the Panthers winning to make it 7-8 between the both of them. Like I said, this is coming down to the wire for the NFC South. Over here, the NFC West, like I said, I'm not a huge fan of the Seahawks going into this season. However, I think they're going to cause some chaos. And right now, they are going to beat the Rams to pretty much guarantee that the division is going to go to the 49ers. Now let's go to the AFC. Titans versus the Chiefs. Huge game for the Titans. They're hoping and praying they can continue on this little streak that they have there of like having improvement. Unfortunately, the Chiefs are just trying to make sure they get the first seed, so they're going to win this game. Huge game right here, week 16 for both these teams to make sure that like they can either try to win the division or they can try to make sure they have home field advantage. It could be the same exact thing. Ravens versus the Patriots. I got the Patriots losing. Okay, well, the Patriots are on a 2-game skid outside of the bye, but it's still fine. It's still fine. They still got everything in front of them. Oh, sorry. I did the wrong way. Bills versus Browns. Easy win. Easy win for the Broncos. Like I said, I would be very surprised at all if the Broncos lost. But they end their 2-game skid and they win. Still within that division reach. Raiders versus Texans in week 16. I got the Texans winning this one. And then the Bengals, I got the Bengals winning as well. Bengals are on a 3-game win streak. They're 8-7. They're still within striking distance of the playoffs. All right, week 17. Huge matchup right here. This is going to determine if the Chiefs win the division or not. If the Chiefs win this game, there's pretty much no way that any of the teams can win a division. I'm going to give it to the Broncos. Broncos win. Broncos beat the Chiefs. Broncos are now 2-3 in the division. Chiefs are now 3-2. It's looking like a grudge match. And the Chargers are going to defeat the Texans. Now, you have an 11-5. 11-5, 11-5. Now, after starting the season, starting the season 5-5, the Chargers are on a 6-game win streak to make it 11-5, and this right here is leading up into Week 18. That's how good I think that this division is going to be. I think that the Raiders are going to be pretty good too. Like I said, I think the Raiders are going to be pretty good as far as like being like a very tight knit kind of group. Obviously, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, but I think they're going to cause some trouble for some people. Jaguars going Week 17. Unfortunately, I have them losing to the Colts, and the Colts are going to basically ruin their draft stock by winning Week 17, 3-13, because I think the head coach and the GM know they're going to be gone, and ruin the draft stock for the next regime. But this right here, this is what I want to talk about. The reason why I want to go step by step, and talk about Aaron Glenn's team. You're 3-12. I want to show you where they're at right now as far as draft order. Right now, the Jets are 5th. My thing is, it doesn't matter about draft order. It matters about culture. With the Patriots at the 7th seed at this point in time, I have the Jets upsetting the Patriots, setting a precedent that they are going to try to win division games. They won against the Dolphins. They won against the Patriots. Yeah, they're 4-12, but at the same time, they are putting the Patriots are the one that's in the 7th seed. Because Steelers beat the Patriots in the very beginning of the season, near the very beginning of the season, they have the tiebreaker. This is a huge game of having Week 17 that I think that Aaron Glenn is going to be able to win the fan base over because of screwing over the Patriots. And now the Patriots are playing behind the 8 ball, and now it's definitely their division, definitely the Bills division. Let's see here. I'm trying to remember what I had. Ravens. I had them beating the Packers. So now it kind of like puts the Packers in a bad spot. I had the Titans winning Week 17. I have the Buccaneers beating the Dolphins. So now the Buccaneers are in a pretty interesting spot too because now they're 8-8. I have the Panthers beating the Seahawks, and I have on Monday Night Football try to stay within the division, try to hope and pray they can still win the division. They beat the Falcons, and now it's 8-8. 8-8, 8-8, 8-8. But what's funny, and you'll see it in a little bit, I'll show you in Week 18, but what's funny is now that the Falcons lost to the Rams, they have no shot of winning the division. Well, actually, they do have a shot, but it's rare, if anything. Let's see here. Where was I? Oh, yeah. Commanders versus the Cowboys. I have the Cowboys losing to the Commanders to pretty much seal their fate. And now, with the Eagles losing to the Bills, it's going to come down to Week 18 for its division. What looked to be like a sealed up division, the Commanders have come back, and the Eagles have very slowly but surely found their way down. Down, down, down. And the Bengals are going to lose to the Cardinals, pretty much ending their season right there. Now they're 8-8, no chance of making the playoffs. Over here, we got an easy win for the 49ers. Thursday night, Week 17, huge game right here. Are the Vikings going to be able to stay in this? Are going to be able to stay within this division? Bam. Now the Vikings are 10-6. They're right on the cusp of making the playoffs. They're not going to win this division. They're right on the cusp of making this playoffs. let me show Week 18 first before I talk about the potential matchups. So now it's rivalry weekend. It is fighting for your life. Let me just show you what could happen. If the Commanders beat the Eagles, Eagles still have it. No, that's why. Then the Commanders have it. If the Eagles win pretty easily, they're going to win the division, and it's going to put the Commanders in a tough spot. So I have the Eagles beating the Commanders. Over here, we have fight for the division. There's no shot whatsoever for the Falcons to win. Let's just put the Falcons as a win. The only way the Falcons can win the division in this scenario is if there's a tie. If there's a tie, then yes, the Falcons can win the division. But very rarely is that going to happen, especially in Week 18 game. So instead, unfortunately for me, I'm going to give it to the Buccaneers. Buccaneers win. Buccaneers have the advantage over the Falcons, and they're going, unfortunately, to go to the playoffs. Like I said, don't believe at all in the Giants. I have them 1-16. Like I said, they're not going to be that bad, but I just can't pick them at all. Oh, sorry about that. Sorry about that, Dobie. How many games have you predicted? All season game prediction? Yes, August season long predictions. Sorry about that. Not talking initially. Wasn't a lot of people in there, so I was kind of just going through. But yeah, I'm doing. I did up to week 10, kind of show like the playoff push, and then going week by week, and showing how I believe this division is going to go. I'll skip this because this is a huge one right here. I think that the 49ers at this point in time, the Seahawks kind of checked out. The 49ers are going to be 13-4. Incredible. And then to make sure that they make the playoffs, I have the Rams winning, going 11-6. So like I said, I'm skipping this because this is huge. This is huge right here. This is for potentially number 1 seed, home playoff game. Like I said, huge game right there. AFC. All right. I have the Chiefs. The Chiefs are in an interesting spot. Oh, let me actually move my page over. Chiefs are in an interesting spot where they got to go against the Raiders at home. These two teams are hoping for the Raiders to win so that basically this becomes who's going to win the division. You got the Bills pretty much already locked up the Bills pretty much already locked up the division. If they win their game against the Jets, they're going to be the number 2 seed. Bam. They're going to be the number 2 seed. The Ravens, who have already locked up the number 1 seed, don't really mind. They just let the Steelers win. Steelers are in. Patriots, unfortunately, are out. So even though they're 10-7, that week 3 loss to the Steelers, I think that's what it was. That's gonna be the difference. Texans are gonna win. They're gonna get that 10 wins. Like I said, the Bengals doesn't really matter. They're 9-8. 9-8, not making the playoffs. Like I said, it doesn't really matter for that game. And over here, like I said, are they just playing for pride? Who's playing for pride? Who's going to win this one? I got the Jaguars winning this one to make it 6-11. Tennessee Titans are 5-12. So, 2 division battles, 2 huge division rivalries, and 2 teams that are outside the playoffs that can ruin it for both those teams. Both these teams, 7-9, 7-9. Are they going to ruin it for each of their teams? Well, let's see. I have the Chiefs losing to the Raiders, and I have the Lions, the number 2 seed Lions, the one who have everything in front of them, losing to Ben Johnson in the final game of the regular season to give way for the Packers to defeat the Vikings. send the Vikings home. The Vikings don't make the playoffs. They're the number 8 seed, and right behind the number 7 seed in the Washington Commanders. Sorry about that. Tell me about your thoughts on AFC North, and don't forget to include the 49ers injury curse that happens every season. Like I said, I think the 49ers curse, I'm hoping that this is finally the year that doesn't really happen as much, because like every single year that hasn't happened, they've gone deep in the playoffs. And with as easy of a schedule they have, with the talent they still have on their team, with the roster rebuild that they did just within one offseason, I think that obviously we're putting a lot of faith in some young players, but I believe in coaching. Robert Saleh is a good head coach, not good head coach, but good defensive mind. Kyle Shanahan is still in charge of the offense. Brock Purdy is still good, regardless of what people think. I think the 49ers are going to be really good this season. I think they're actually going to win the division. I think they're going to win the division. I think they're going to be the first overall seed. A lot of people are going to say they're frauds, but I think they're still going to be good. Steelers will go somewhere between 9-8 and 7-8. Sorry, 9-8, 10-7, and get in the wild card and then lose. I agree. Like I said, I would not be surprised. I hope the curse doesn't strike. They are a fun team to watch when stars are playing. Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think some people have kind of really counted out the 49ers, but I ultimately think that they're going to be a really good team. And as you can see, this is the NFC. NFC is stacked. You have the 49ers. A lot of people might say they're frauds. They have a really good easy schedule, but they're 13-4. The Rams are 11-6. The Eagles are 12-5. They're going to be going against the Commanders in the wild card. You got the Packers that are going to be going up against the Rams in the wild card. That's a great matchup. And then the Buccaneers that are so unpredictable are going to have to go up against the Lions in the wild card. Let's look over here. So now the Chiefs have lost the division for the first time since 2015. It's going to be in between these two. Who is going to win the division? Well, for my money, and for it to be a home field advantage, I'm giving it to the Denver Broncos. I think the Denver Broncos are going to win the division. It's going to be a hard-fought division win. Like I said, if you're able to watch the video all the way through, you kind of saw, especially for the Chargers. The Chargers went on a 6-game win streak. I think they're going to have like an easier road at the very end, have a 6-game win streak, put themselves in position, and then ultimately fail to win the division. It's going to go to the Broncos. And as you can see here, you have the number 1 seed is going to be the Ravens. Home field advantage throughout the playoffs. 7th seed, the Steelers, are going to be going against the Bills, who are number 2. Then the AFC West is an interesting dynamic where you have the Broncos having to go against the Chiefs in the wild card, and then the Chargers traveling to the Texans in the wild card for a wild card rematch. Yeah, Packers are making the playoffs. Sorry, Dobie. At first, before the Micah Parsons news, I had the Packers, if I want to remember correctly, I think I have the Packers as the 6th seed, or the 5th seed. I can't remember which one. And now with that extra, little oomph with Micah Parsons, I think they win one more division game, overtaking the Lions, unfortunately, at the very tail end. Like I said, you could see the Lions had the division within grasp. They lose the last 2 games, and they end up giving the division to the Packers. You lose home field advantage, and now the Packers are in a good spot, and basically a lot of the hype train is going to be for the Packers to make it to the Super Bowl. Brown win the Super Bowl with Joe Flacco at the helm. We can all have that dream. We can all have that dream that thing is going to work out for the Browns. I hope they do eventually, but I don't think it's going to be this year. Now, start with the playoffs. Wild card round. Let's go AFC first. The Chargers got absolutely embarrassed by the Texans earlier this past offseason, this past playoffs. They're going to get their revenge. Their defense is still really good. I'm hopeful, and this is indicative of Justin Herbert, but we are all hopeful that he can finally turn the page. He can finally be the quarterback that we're all hoping he can be. Now this matchup right here, a very fascinating matchup. The Denver Broncos versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Can the Denver Broncos finally defeat the Kansas City Chiefs when it really matters? Or will the Chiefs continue to go on their little streak of trying to make it to the Super Bowl every single year? I believe the Broncos are going to stop them from completing their goal of making it to the Super Bowl. Very dangerous team. Being in Mile High, being the first playoff win since that Super Bowl run is going to be amazing to watch for the Denver Broncos. I really hope it happens. And in this one, I'm sorry, like I said, we've already said this before. The Steelers will make it to the playoffs, but they're not making it deep, especially not against the Bills. Bills are too good. So that is your wild card winners to set up a really interesting matchup going into next week. NFC, like I said, very, very hard fought battles. Let's talk about the 4 and 5. Lions, you had it. You had it in the palm of your hands. You had the division. You had everything in front of you, and you lost it. And now you have to go on the road to Tampa Bay to still a very tough Tampa Bay team. However, you're too good. You can't lose to Tampa Bay. I have you winning in Tampa Bay to make it to the divisional round. This huge game. Huge game. Packers, with the addition of Micah Parsons, I think it's going to be a difference, and they're going to win the game against the against the Rams to make it to the divisional to try to go up against the Eagles. Eagles are too much of a train. I just can't trust the Commanders' defense, especially when you have the Eagles who are that good. All right. Now moving on to the divisional, sorry. Two great matchups. The Harbaugh brothers to decide who is going to make it to the AFC Championship game. As you can see, the first time in forever, the first time since 2017. No, I'm trying to remember if it was 2017 was the last time the Chiefs weren't in the divisional. But no Chiefs whatsoever. Everyone has their option of finally making it to the AFC Championship game, making it to the Super Bowl. I'm giving the nod to my top two teams this season. I think the Bills barely outlast the Broncos. The Broncos can hold their head high. They ended the Chiefs. They were able to hold still with the Bills at the Bills stadium, and then I think the Ravens are just too much, unfortunately, for the Chargers. The top two seeds from the AFC. Now, you got the matchup from last year in the wild card. All the stuff that happened in the offseason. You have Micah Parsons who hates the Eagles. Eagles who hate Micah Parsons. That's going to be a huge storyline. Going back and forth, back and forth. I think it's going to be an amazing game. But ultimately, I think that the Eagles are going to win this game. They're going to win the divisional, and they're going to make it to the NFC Championship game. And this right here, the 49ers versus the Lions, who is going to make it back to the NFC Championship game? I think it's going to be the Lions. I am a big believer in the Lions this year. I think that the 49ers, though I like them a lot, and I really hope and pray that the 49ers will be good this year because with the schedule they have, they can easily have home field advantage throughout the playoffs. However, I just think the Lions are the team of destiny. And when I mean a team of destiny, I'm going to have them defeat the Eagles. I know it's crazy. I know it's really crazy to continue to pick the Lions, but back against the wall, the Eagles already won their championship. The Lions are still hoping and praying they can make it to the Super Bowl. I think they can still beat the Eagles. Like I said, I believe I said in the regular season they beat the Eagles too. AFC, Bills versus Ravens. Who is going to make it to the Super Bowl? Whose legacy is going to change forever? Who is finally, now that Patrick Mahomes is no longer in the picture, who is going to be able to have their first Super Bowl appearance? Is it going to be Lamar? Is it going to be Josh Allen? These two are going to be fighting for the MVP as well. And in my book, even though it is home field advantage, even though they might be the better team, the Bills get to end the season for Lamar Jackson and go to the Super Bowl. Two teams who've never won a Super Bowl, Lions never been to one, are going to make it to the Super Bowl together. And this right here, the two greedy towns of Buffalo and Detroit, the two towns that have been hoping and praying to finally win a Super Bowl, who are finally hoping that they can have the Super Bowl parade, who are finally hoping to wash away the 4 straight Super Bowl losses, who are finally hoping to wash away it's just Detroit, the same old Detroit, because these are not the same two teams. These teams have been building together for a long time. What's going to happen? Who's going to have paid off? I'm picking the Lions. I want the Lions to win so bad. It would be something of a tale too. After losing both coordinators, after going through all the crap they were having to go through, that they missed out the division. They missed out on the division. They have to go on the road for every single playoff game, Detroit versus everybody, and then they have to face off against the Bills in the Super Bowl, and they beat the Super Bowl, the Bills in the Super Bowl. I would love that. I would love that to happen. Just kind of show you the draft order too. Browns are number 1. Giants are number 2, Saints 3, and as you can kind of see throughout, the Panthers are a top 10 pick, even though they went 8 and 9. Like I said, it would be a great season for that. Also, having a top 10 pick would be amazing. Ooh, sorry. As you can see, the Jaguars, the Browns pick would be number 8. The Rams pick would be number 13. And who else? Did anybody else give a first round pick away? I don't think so. But yeah, that's it. So that is my season long prediction for the 2025 season. This was a long video. That's the reason why I did it as a live stream, just because I was able to make it a. Come on. Just because I wanted to kind of make it a little bit longer and not cost me forever to try to edit the video down. So instead, I just live streamed it. I hope you enjoyed the video. Like I said, I'm going to start doing this instead of my long form videos. Well, not long form. Instead of doing like a long form video for the season predictions, I'm just going to do this from now on. Like I said, we'll have a little more interaction. Sorry I didn't have as much interaction as I wanted to do. I was trying to read through. But thank you so much for joining. Like I said, tomorrow I'll be streaming the goodness gracious, the NFL kickoff game on Peacock, and then also I'll be streaming the Friday night game as well. I'm trying to figure out which games I'll be streaming on Sunday. I'll be off on Saturdays. I'll be at a wedding. But thanks so much for joining. And as